What's going on, everybody? How we doing? How we doing? Guys, welcome back to the W.A.D.E concept. What's going on, guys? Now, we're still in the prelims. I know it's been a while since we streamed last, but welcome everybody watching back in. We are getting on our way here with a couple guys, Piota and Williams, starting out today. Tristan, Nitro, what's going on, guys? Welcome. Thank you guys for being in here. I know you, Zaire. It's been a while. I've been getting some things done. My personal life. We've been myself, my family, been talking about some stuff I'm going to be doing in the next couple of months. Possibly relocating, doing some different things. Tristan, hey man, I got that timing. But yeah, it's good to see every one of you guys. Thanks, guys, for being in here. I really appreciate it, man. Just to come back and see you guys as soon as I get in here. And Kelsey's obviously in the chat. You guys say what up to Kels. It's always nice to see some familiar faces. Thank you guys for being here, man. First thing, let's update. Check the arm out, boys. We're getting there. Oh, you even see a little vein there. A little something. We're getting there, man. We're about, what's today? Today is the 18th? Is it? Yeah, so almost exactly 2 months since I had my bicep tendon surgery. So we're getting there, man. I'm excited. I went for my first run a couple of days ago. I just got back from a run before I cracked the stream up today. Tristan, hey, man, all you guys have been here since day one. Nitro's been here. Uzziah, Tristan, the other Tristan's been here. Kelsey's obviously been here. Kim's been here. You guys have all been here since day one. I appreciate it, man. I'm so glad. Oh, big shot. Piota put Williams down. Woo, while we're talking. UFC prelims, fireworks already. Piota's wobbling, trying to get to his feet. Man, it's like we never left, y'all. Hey, Nitro giving the what's up. Piota with the freaking right hand. Overhand right. Wobbled. What the heck? I'm drinking air, guys. Laying off the Celsius for a little bit, too. But yeah, just some different things going on. That's why I've been gone for so long. But we're back starting tonight. There's some great fights, man. I cannot wait. UFC Austin. There's a lot's happened since we were here last time. And I hope you guys have been watching because I got a lot to talk about. I want to talk with you guys about it. Did you guys see UFC 221? Did you see Yoel Romero land that freaking double-barrel 12-gauge shotgun of a left hand on Luke Rockhold and put him to sleep? Not only that, but then he hit a rocket launcher while he was on the ground with that uppercut. Jesus Christ. Hey, man, I look, Tristan, I'm always going to be loyal to you guys because you guys have gotten me to where I'm at now, and I'll never forget that. You guys are amazing, and in fact, you guys are part of the reason that I kind of am in Florida for right now. So I'm transparent with you guys, but there's a lot that I'm doing outside of this. And with this, with my YouTube channel, with some of the clips from it, and just, me doing the W.A.D.E concept, I've actually landed an internship with a local radio station that happens to host ESPN radio, and I'm trying to do some things with them. And it's an internship, and it is what it is. But because of you guys, I've actually gotten the opportunity to work with actual media groups to do what my passion is, and that's talk about MMA and talk about sports, and hopefully it's one step closer to getting to where I want to get to. So that's always, I'm always going to have you guys to thank for that. So thank you. I'm just glad to be where I'm at with you guys. I'm glad to keep going on this journey. And one day, I'm telling you, one day, guys, we're not going to be a 116, 115 subscriber channel. One day, we're going to have the machine behind us, or we are going to be the machine. And, we're going to take this thing over, and we're going to be Jimmy Smith's interviewing Pihota right now. We're going to be the next Jimmy Smith or Joe Rogan or whoever. I don't know if we'll be the next anybody. We'll be the first W.A.D.E concept, but we'll be up there. And I'm excited for it, and I'm excited to be back, man. So I hope so, Uzziah. Tristan, thank you, man. Thank you all you guys. I appreciate it. We'll see, man. But yeah, since we've been gone, there's been a lot going on, man. Did you guys watch 221? What'd you think about it? Yeah, Nitro said, yo, with that cannon, Tristan, that uppercut was nasty, 100%. Uzziah, I hope we got 1 million subs. That'd be a dream, man. We're not gonna put it out there and say that's gonna be the case, because you never know. What we're gonna do is just keep on going, man, and hopefully the positive vibes and the energy that you guys bring will do something for us. But until then, we're just going to watch fights, have a good time, and talk about them. But yeah, UFC 221 was quite a show. There weren't big names on the card, but we saw guys that, potentially could be big names. You saw Tyson Pedro, who was a guy that wasn't, on my radar as much as he should have been, put on a phenomenal performance. You saw Tai Tuivasa put on a phenomenal performance. Both guys vied for fight of the night, which I thought both guys should have won, either a fight of the night or a performance of the night. And both young guys, both guys can talk. They're very charismatic. And, it's just a good showing for Australians. And the card probably didn't do great numbers, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad card. Maybe financially for the UFC, it might take a hit for now, but that's the kind of thing you need to do as a company to start building cards up. Yes, 2017 was the year of the superstar, the year of the super fight. But let's get back to what made this sport what it is. Let's get back to what made this sport interesting. I think we should just build these fighters that don't quite have a name yet, and just build this, countries like Australia, countries like Brazil, who have big-time fighters that just aren't recognized yet. Even Israel, what's the cat's name? Adesanya? Am I saying that right? Israel Adesanya? He, the kickboxer, 65-5, something like that, gets his first fight in the UFC. People are calling him the next John Jones at middleweight. I don't necessarily want to jump the conclusion and jump the gun that quickly, but his striking's, some of the best I've seen. Just pure striking. Obviously, takedown defense will need to have some work. He got taken down a couple times, but scrambled right back to his feet. But he talks, again, great charisma, very charismatic guy, very personable. You can, he makes you laugh. He has that natural presence when he's speaking and when he's in the fight. It looked like at any point in the fight he was never, never had that fear in his eye. Was always composed, always ready to move forward in the fight and move the next chess piece on the puzzle. So I think that the card itself was amazing. Might not do, the crazy numbers. We did get the numbers out on the UFC 220. The UFC 220 numbers came out in about 350,000. Pay-per-view buys for Francis Ngannou and Stipe, Daniel Cormier, Ozdemir. So again, it's not going to be the most profitable year this year unless that, Conor comes back, and of course that changes everything. But I think this is what you need to do to build your product, to build your brand. Put these guys like Tyson Pedro, who is a up-and-coming light heavyweight. And again, if I'm mispronouncing Israel's last name, I apologize. I have to look at it again. But Israel Adesanya, put him on the next pay-per-view card. They got Sage on tonight. Like, build these guys up, and let's get some new superstars that can maintain, and let's stop clogging divisions. I'm excited for this year, man, 100%. The pay-per-view buys were pretty terrible, yeah, Tristan. But it's going to be like that, until you go away from the stronghold that is the big three, the Brock Lesnar, Ronda Rousey, Conor McGregor, blueprint, prototype. That's not going to keep working. You're not always going to get a Conor. There's not always going to be a freak athlete like Brock. And the women's division is stacked now. There's not just one girl running through everyone unless you consider Cyborg that one girl. But even then, we can get into the topic about her not having anybody to fight. No one wants to come to 145, or the UFC's not going out and actively pursuing opponents at that weight division. It's all about the big money fight. I think if you can put a little bit of a spotlight on these guys that like a Yancey tonight, which it sucks that it always has to be Cowboy taking these fights, but some new guys, new blood in MMA, not just in the UFC, but in MMA in general, is what we need. Dana versus Stipe is going to be very interesting. Yeah, Uzziah, that's going to be an interesting fight, man. I don't really know, man. We'll talk about it all tonight, I'm sure, but that's not a fight I want to see. With that said, if you ain't John, you ain't beating DC. True. I mean, DC doesn't lose to guys unless they're named John Jones. And John is just so crazy. I like him to stand up, his clean, nasty kicks, long reach. He's the future of the UFC. Yeah, Israel Adesanya could be the future, man. Young kid. These kickboxers, especially, with the blend of Muay Thai now and guys coming in with Taekwondo, which is fairly new to the sport, are starting to learn, not even just learning to wrestle, but learning just takedown defense and learning how to get up off their back. And that's really, guys like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who you can't really prepare for because they have so many different weapons. With that great striking use, and it's still my humble opinion that wrestling is the first base of UFC. I think that of MMA. I think that you need to be at the end of the day, if you're hurt or if all of your stand-up skills aren't working, if you have a wrestling background, if you have a way to control the fight, because strikers can't control the fight unless it's backward and forward, right? The pace of the fight backward and forward on the feet. Conor McGregor's done this, someone throw the Conor counter up. Conor McGregor's done this beautifully, starting as just a complete counter puncher, right? Or a counter fighter, I should say, always looking to land that left hand and now becoming more of an offensive counter striker to irritate his opponents into walking into the dead space and then countering, right? So being more offensive. You saw it in the Chad Mendez fight. You saw it in the Eddie Alvarez fight. He pesters people and uses that reach. He is a taller guy for his division. Uses that reach to pester guys into coming into the dead space and to rushing him and then dropping the left hand on him. So we're talking about the Stipe fight in the chat. Stipe will murder Daniel. Khabib still pound per pound. Most feared. It just depends. With Stipe and Daniel, the thing is, there's a difference. I'm sure you guys know, but let's not forget that Daniel Cormier, before he came into the UFC, was a heavyweight champion in Strikeforce, and that was when Strikeforce had some pretty tough guys. You're talking about Daniel Cormier launching Dan Henderson into the air like a rag doll. Now, granted, Dan ended up fighting at middleweight at a point, so it's not like he was a true heavyweight at the time, but we're talking about Daniel Cormier throwing Josh Barnett up in the air. Like, this guy is an Olympic-level wrestler and undefeated at heavyweight, correct, Nitro? So it's tough, man, because it's not just that Daniel Cormier is beating up on a bunch of light heavyweights. This guy is a true heavyweight, and you see how bad it kills him to get down to light heavy. So if he's doing that and still the cardio he possesses at that weight class, let's look at a not as much drained Daniel Cormier and what can he bring to the table at heavyweight. Just because he's not a taller guy, he's a little shorter, but he's not. It's not like he's walking in the ring at 5'5". Daniel Cormier is an Olympic-level wrestler that is developing really good stand-up. If you guys haven't seen it, he stood toe-to-toe with John. He started getting John with the dirty boxing inside. He stood toe-to-toe with Alexander Gustafsson to the point where Gustafsson started trying to wrestle Cormier, which is nuts to me. It's not as easy a fight as just saying Stipe's going to wreck him. Now, Stipe hits a lot harder than some of these guys. Stipe's a power puncher as well. He's a knockout artist, But does Stipe hit it just as hard as Volkan Ozdemir? Case could be made for that, Does Stipe hit as hard as Rumble? Case could be made for the fact that Daniel Cormier's faced power punchers, guys that, can knock out people in a flash. So it's not just as easy as Stipe going with this fight. I could easily see Daniel Cormier coming up and taking that title off of him. And I'm not going to make a prediction on that yet because there's so much more you have to look into. You have to look into the fact that Stipe is going to have more of a tank than he had against Francis because both those guys were tired in the 4th and 5th round. And Daniel Cormier doesn't get tired. His pace is always there. Francis stopped pushing Stipe at about a minute left in the first. There was no more pace to put on Stipe at that point. Stipe controlled the pace the rest of the fight. You're not going to be able to lay on Daniel Cormier on the ground. You're going to have to constantly be working. You're going to have to constantly be getting out of that dirty boxing clinch that he loves and throwing those inside close uppercuts, constantly fighting takedowns, constantly fighting the single leg, high crotch, everything. So it's going to be an interesting fight. I'm so excited for that. Not only that fight, but that card I'm excited for. Khabib should be pound for pound, followed by Justin Gaethje. Daniel is a panic wrestler. The only time I've seen Daniel Cormier panic wrestle, I've seen him do it twice. I've seen him panic wrestle or try to panic wrestle John, and John took him down. And I've seen him try to panic wrestle Anderson Silva. And I don't think that was more of a panic wrestle. I think that was more of just taking a fight on short notice. Anderson Silva is one of the most dangerous strikers, to ever live. Granted, at this point, we've seen Anderson Silva's tarnish his reputation beyond repair with how many times he's been popped, even just recently. But Daniel Cormier just didn't want to play the game of, I've got this guy on a couple of days' notice, with John being pulled from the fight. There's no way you're going to stand there and try to strike with Anderson Silva, the longer, rangy fighter. Yeah, I'm not sure Justin Gaethje with the pound for pound, Tristan. Why do you say that Justin Gaethje should be pound for pound? I'm assuming that's what that meant, Justin Gaethje. Eddie Alvarez just went to war with Justin Gaethje. It was a great fight, but Eddie came out on top, so I'm not sure how Gaethje's the pound for pound best. But man, that Australian card was great. Tyson Pedro, amazing submission. Oh, kick to the dick, first thing. Ferreira and Gordon here. Kick to the dick. About 20 seconds into the fight. But yeah, some things lining up for John Jones too. If you guys haven't heard the recent news, John Jones maybe not as guilty as we first thought. Now, granted, I'm not going to sit here and say John hasn't done things and hasn't, gone around the rules, and we don't know the whole story, but what has come out is, John has passed a lie detector test. I don't know how much that means. He is going to have a hearing coming up on the 27th this February, or, this month, which is really just next week. And, reports are that if they find no wrongdoing, John could be back as early as this year. So don't rule John Jones out of fighting the winner of this Stipe Daniel fight, because there's not really much for John to do still at light heavyweight. Khabib beat up on Edson, which is number 3 in the lightweight division, and Khabib made him look like Khabib can definitely be considered pound for pound. Another kick to the dick. That's a point. I mean, Miragliotta gives him a second warning. I mean, 2 kicks to the groin. Accident or not, it's a big deal, man. Why are we not taking points for this? And if you guys watched 221, you guys saw Justin Matthews and Jing Liang, and you saw the eye gouge, which was horrific and was complete. It was just cheating. I mean, regardless if you meant to or not, or if it's the heat of the moment, when you're digging into a guy's eyeball, his vision's, compromised at that point for the rest of the fight. Now, granted, Matthews went on to win the fight, but the referee stood there and looked at it. Why are we not taking points? Why are we not disqualifying guys for stuff like that? I don't understand. Is Nunes going to fight Cyborg? I think so. I'll consider him pound. Yeah, Khabib it's tough because Khabib has never lost. It's really tough to not consider him, at least in the top 10 pound for pound, top 5. But we need to see him with the belt before we start saying he's the number 1 pound for pound. We need to see him hold that belt, and it's not his own fault. You can argue that, there we go, Ferreira with the big left hand on Gordon. Hammer fist. Gordon trying to get up. Full mount. Raining down fists. Gordon trying to protect, get up. Got one arm pinned. Oh, Ferreira with the win. And again, that's a good stoppage. I mean, that's a nice left hand. That's good ground and pound. But man, 2 kicks to the groin right before that. Aaron Gordon, shakes him off and gets back in it. It's a good win. It's a good win. IDK, if you pay attention to his style, he was undefeated for the longest time. He doesn't go long. That's how Eddie got him. But he broke Eddie's cheek. I pay attention to Justin Gaethje's style, and Justin Gaethje himself admits that he's not a fighter that's going to be, he's going to incur some losses by the way he fights. He's basically, he leaves his chin out, he walks forward, and he doesn't give ground. And that's not saying he's not a warrior. 100% Justin Gaethje's a warrior, and he will win a lot of fights because of his pressure. I won't say his pace is the best because he does get very tired. In a 3-round fight, he and Eddie Alvarez were very tired because they tried to push pace in the first and second round. But for you to become a pound for pound, number 1 and champion, it can hold off to, any sort of challenge like Justin Gaethje would be if he was going to be in the pound-for-pound discussion, he has got to fix a couple of things. You can't fight chin out, swinging for the fences. And not to say that Justin Gaethje doesn't have technique, because those leg kicks were nasty. He was eating Eddie Alvarez up with those leg kicks. But at the same time, he gets hit very easily. Doesn't use that wrestling as much as I know he can. A great wrestler. But again, you can't win. You can't be a pound for pound great taking and eating shots like that unless, you have some abilities that can coincide with it. If you use that wrestling a little more, if you decide that you want to get into that pocket and then use your wrestling, use your takedowns, then use those big hands that you have on the ground. Justin Gaethje, no doubt about it, an amazing fighter, still has a lot to go in his career. Maybe one day he can be in that pound-for-pound discussion, but as of right now, he is not. Big fan of Tony and Khabib, but Khabib will kill him. He came out of the womb wrestling bears. It's kind of say fluke that guy. It's going to be an interesting fight, man, because Eddie Bravo just came out this week, and I think it was on Bruce Buffer's podcast, and had an interesting argument to what Tony's going to do against Khabib. And if you guys didn't hear it, basically what he was saying was Tony is not going to try to play Khabib's game as far as defending that takedown by trying to scramble as quickly as he can to his feet, like, a la Edson Barbosa, a la Michael Johnson, a la Rafael dos Anjos, where Khabib can just, uses single leg trips, ragdoll you back to the ground. He uses drags, uses a lot of his sambo to just get back on the ground and hold you down. What Eddie Bravo was saying was that Tony Ferguson, being a black belt, a 10 planet black belt, is fine on the ground. He almost not invites it, but he's going to pressure Khabib and make him work while he's on the ground, which is a very kind of interesting take on how to fight Khabib, almost using Khabib's strength and trying to turn it into a weakness. I'm not saying he can turn it into a weakness, but trying to. That's very interesting to me. Who do I think will win? In my honest opinion, oh man, if you're gonna put me on the spot, Uzziah, at first glance, this is why I say Khabib will win the fight, and it's not because Khabib is just gonna ragdoll Tony to the ground and mash him in the first round, and it's gonna be a TKO and he's utterly gonna dominate him. What I think is gonna happen is I think Tony is going to find himself in a realm where, usually if Tony gets taken down, and Tony has used his wrestling before to take guys to the ground and set up his jiu-jitsu game. In this case, it's different. Obviously, Khabib is the better wrestler. Tony, just because he's an All-American college wrestler, it really doesn't mean anything in this fight. Khabib is going to be the better wrestler. He's going to be the better grappler. What Tony, I think, is relying on, and what Eddie Bravo and Tony's camp is relying on, is that Tony will be able to work off his back, to be able to keep Khabib close in the guard, to set up some slick transitions to submission. But what I don't think Tony is ready for is the fact that Khabib is very active in his pace. I think Tony is relying on the fact that he thinks Khabib is a little bigger and it's going to be hard for him to cut weight, and Tony's going to outlast his pace, because Tony's pace is incredible too. Tony doesn't stop. He doesn't get tired. But I think he doesn't realize that Khabib on top doesn't get tired. And holding a guy that looks like he's 155, but when Khabib gets in the octagon, it's probably like a solid 175 or 175, 180. It's going to be so hard to keep active on your back and keep him active and keep him, from pounding your face in. And I think over a 5-round fight, Khabib is going to be successful in his takedowns about 80 to 85% of the time. And when that happens, Tony's going to either have to catch him, but the thing is, Khabib doesn't transition much. He'll transition to side control, but he doesn't move enough to almost get caught in something slick, right? And he doesn't stay in the guard to punch to where you can trap him in triangles a lot either. He moves to side control or to half guard and butchers you from there. He doesn't really, and he pins your legs. It's even when he goes to mount, he doesn't go to full mount. He kind of sits on your legs and pins you. It's very different what Khabib does, and I think Tony is going to be ready for that in a certain, to a certain degree. But after the pace is still put on by Khabib and he still is coming forward and Tony doesn't have, an answer for that top game, that's, I think, where the problems set in. I'm not saying Khabib's going to take him down every round and lay on him and destroy him every round. But when he does do it, I don't think that Tony's going to be able to get up. So I'll say, if I had to pick, I would say Khabib. And I'll say either, because I don't see Tony getting caught in a submission, I'll say either Khabib by late round TKO or Khabib by decision. What Tony needs to do is work counter submissions to control the center of the cage. Well, off his back, I mean, Tony has his triangle. I've seen Tony set up a Darce even from his back, even though it's usually set up from his snap downs. Tony's got a nasty anaconda. His jiu-jitsu's not bad. It might not have been on the Ultimate Fighter, but this is 10th Planet Tony now. Tony's been working with 10th Planet for a while. He does have up kicks, which you did see in the Ultimate Fighter. But Tony's got a lot more than that, and people sleep on Tony's boxing too. I could see Tony maybe not to Conor's level, obviously, and Tony's easily hit. So when Khabib comes in with that flurry of punches, I could see Tony getting hit pretty easily. Or excuse me, I could see Khabib getting hit pretty easily. But I could also see Tony getting hit pretty easily because he juts that chin out and doesn't really parry anything. So I think that the fight. Someone said in the comments the fight would have to be Tony controlling the center of the cage. It's very easy to say, but so hard to do with Khabib's forward pressure. And Tony's not an angles fighter. He's not a bob, weave, stick, move, circle fighter. Tony's usually the pressure fighter. Tony is a pace fighter. So both these guys are going to try to establish pace. Tony's not going to move away and slide and try to create space like Edson Barboza did, who's what a striker like Conor McGregor, Edson Barboza will do. Will try to create space, invite Khabib to walk in and catch him on the way in. Tony's going to be right there in his face too. I think Khabib, just with his forward pressure and his takedown ability, I don't think Tony's takedown defense is going to be enough. I like Tony's standing elbows. I don't see it being as quick a fight or as dominant as a fight for Khabib as everybody else thinks. I do want to see if Tony can, as Eddie Bravo said, use that strength of Khabib against him. It's very interesting. You don't see a lot of guys try to do it. I want to see if Tony can, be comfortable in that barrage of punches and that complete grappling control that Khabib has to, be able to relax and fight off his back in an effective way. Because it's going to have to happen at some point in the fight. I'm not saying it's the only chance in the fight that Tony has, but at some point in the fight, Tony will be on his back or he'll be on the canvas somewhere. And if he's against the cage, it's real trouble. Because, like you guys know, that's Khabib's. That's his big left hook. That's his comfort zone. Rana jumps to guillotine, and it's deep. Taps out. Morono with the left hook. Flying guillotine for the W. Holy cow. I would be surprised if it goes 5 the way Tony... I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes 5 either. Just because of the fact that both these guys, aren't particularly knockout artists. Tony is a finisher. Tony finishes 100%. But Khabib is a very methodical fighter. He does keep pace, but on the ground very methodical. He does throw big strikes, but he does wear on you. And it's just complete domination. Tony pushes his pace as well, tries to break you. Both guys the objective is to break the other fighter and impose their will. It's just who can do that in this fight, and it looks like Khabib is the more likely to. As Rogan would say, there's levels to this. Tony will find this out the hard way no matter how hard he attacks off his back. And I'm not so sure that Khabib has ever been in a firefight when he does get into that position, right? How does Khabib react if Tony starts throwing those, 12-6 Michael Bisping elbows off of his back? Because, again, he does have nice elbows. How does Khabib react when he's caught in a submission or if he's caught in a bad position? We haven't really seen these things yet, and maybe that's a tribute to how astounding Khabib is in his grappling to not ever be caught. And I don't see him particularly getting caught. But what if? With Tony and then, in the MMA fight game, you never know. Tony was getting beat in the Edson Barboza fight, in my opinion. Went to snap down city with Edson, caught him in the Darce, and it was good night. That fight can change in an instant. Any fight can, but especially in Tony's case with the weapons he possesses and the pace he possesses. We haven't seen Khabib fight 5. So that's another thing. I can sit here and say Khabib's got great pace all day, but until we see him fight those extra 2, we don't really know. Oh, Tristan, don't do it. Don't tell us that, man. I can't handle another back out. I can't handle another cancellation. Just this one time. Let's please. Tony, Khabib, I'm talking to you guys. I know you guys watch my podcast. I have, 115 subscribers. We're blowing up nowadays, and I know you guys watch. And since you're watching now, please, both of you, Khabib, I'll have a translation for you. Please show up to the fight. Let's get this going. My heart can't handle it. My heart cannot handle another cancellation. I can't handle anybody pulling out. Let's both make weight, and let's both get it. Let's get in there and throw hands. Let's get in there and take someone to Suplex City, Brock Lesnar style, Snapdown City, Khabib time, all that. Please. I need it. Yeah, Khabib is relentless, man. Yeah, Tristan, good point. Conor and Dana have got to stop playing with the belt, man. It's so confusing what's going on with that. And if you saw Khabib talking with TMZ yesterday or the day before, apparently it's in his contract that they're fighting for, the undisputed championship. I don't know if what that even means, because the UFC can pretty much make up things on a whim, it seems like now. The undisputed championship could just be another name for undisputed championship until Conor gets back championship. Who knows? But I hope that we can get this, again, this log jam at 155 under control. And this is interesting too because, yeah, well, I mean, when he's your biggest cash cow, Uzziah, when Conor's your biggest cash cow, and you don't want to piss a guy like that off when he's still in negotiation to come back and fight for your promotion, because he could just take, depending on how many times he fights a year, say he fights twice a year, he could take 4 million pay-per-view buys and say, okay, cool, you're going to disrespect me like that, take my title away from me, I'm out. And there goes, half your profit for the year. But, again, I'm one of the proponents of saying, look, strip the guy. You said you were going to do it. Be a man of your word. The UFC can move on and will move on without Conor. It might not happen this year, might not happen next year, but there will be more superstars. There are more superstars that can be, built up and used in that position. Maybe it's not the one person that's going to replace Conor, but you have a multitude of people that can and will put on great fights, will be a great representative for your company. And Khabib, say he beats Tony, how do you not promote that man as the pound-for-pound best or just a straight-up killer, man? I mean, he's undefeated in MMA. You don't see that at 25-0. No one does that. Tristan brings up a good point. The moment those guys both make weight and the fight is on, Dana's not a stupid man. Once that fight is 100% committed, because if that fight's not, and you strip Conor before, that's a great point. If you strip Conor before the weigh-in, and that fight's not official, and all of a sudden you have Tony, who is, for all intents and purposes, your interim or your champion, whatever it is, if that fight doesn't happen, now you've stripped Conor, who was your reigning champion, and have no true champion to defend the belt. I mean, I guess if Tony, is still your champ, he could still defend the belt. But they're making that fight for the undisputed title. If you strip Conor beforehand and they can't fight, there's no fight for the title, right? And you would just have to go the Robert Whittaker route and award it to Tony. And that would, drive not only Conor away, but now you're going to have any name recognition for the fight because you can't really book Khabib and Tony. If this fight goes through again and it doesn't happen, you're looking at not booking this fight ever, right? So Tony or whoever, if the fight doesn't happen because Khabib misses weight, this fight's not going to happen ever because this is the 4th time. How many times are fans going to sit and pray and hope for this fight to happen, for it to happen, right? So it's a great point, Tristan. Mayweather McGregor is being teased because Floyd Mayweather has to stay relevant. Floyd Mayweather has a strip club to run. He needs eyes on him. Conor McGregor loves to entertain the fact that Floyd would come into the cage, and he wants to goad him into doing so. That is 100% teaser, 0% actuality that ever happens. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Conor's the number 2 pound for pound. This is number 1 bullshit. Tonight, let's talk about tonight, guys. Main card tonight, Cowboy. Punk versus Mayweather is more. I saw that on the JRE, man. Joe was talking about CM Punk versus Floyd Mayweather. CM Punk would get knocked dead before that fight got to any sort of ground submission, wrestling, grappling exchange. CM Punk would hop in with that weird shuffle he used against Mickey Gall and get caught with a straight right hand, and the fight would be over. They could do a catch weight. They could bring in Punk at 170, Mayweather at 150, and that would still happen. Who do I have for the main event tonight? Kelsey asks. Guys, who do you have for the main event tonight? It's an interesting main tonight. We have. I'm gonna take the hat off. No, I'm not. Y'all don't roast me in the chat, man. Don't worry about my my hair. For the main tonight, it's tough, man, because Yancey's 3-0 at welterweight, and he looks good, man. He looks so good at welterweight. Great striking. He just looks good. He's very explosive. Looks like it's where he needs to be. And, Donald's coming off, I guess, what is this? Is it 3 straight losses now? Donald lost to Till, lost to Lawler, and lost to Jorge. So, yeah, Donald's coming off 3 losses. And, I hope, for Cowboys' sake, that this is a W. I'm a big Cowboy fan. I hope that he can get the W tonight. Yancey coming, he's 3-0 at welterweight. So it's no walk in the park. And I think, Cowboys even admitted that maybe he didn't take Darren Till as seriously. I mean, we all know at this point he didn't take Darren Till as seriously as he should have. But before the fact, who really knew that Darren Till was that much of a killer? Because it always goes back to the old argument, who have you fought? And so for Cowboy, man, it's always dangerous. It's always him that's taking these dangerous guys, and more respect to him. And his reasoning behind it's always, because if I'm going to be the best, I got to fight everyone anyway. But man, if I was his manager, I'd say, yeah, that's true, but why not? Let's go after the guys that make sense for now and try to get us to that top level. That way, we're the draw, we're the money fight, and people have to come to us. It's still the same situation. You're going to have to fight everyone, but on your terms, right? Not on the UFC's terms, not on the younger guys trying to break into the scene's terms, but on your terms, the champion or the number 1 contender or whoever, right? But then again, that's not Cowboy. So who am I to, or his management team, to say, look, this is what we're going to do. If he's the Cowboy and he's going to fight and that's what he loves to do and he wants to go different places and do it, he's going to do what he wants. So who do I have in the main tonight? As explosive as Yancey's been, it's hard not to pick him. I don't know how Cowboy's head is after that fight with Darren Till, and we all know that Cowboy is one of the slowest starters. And in a 3-round fight, you can't, especially against a guy as explosive as Yancey and as good as he's looked at welterweight, you can't really be a slow starter. This is back-to-back guys that can really strike that Cowboy is fighting. I'll say Yancey Medeiros. Mid-third. Not even mid-third. I'm going to say Yancey, first round TKO. I don't feel great about it, but that's what I'm going to say. The only thing about the real title and the interim title being together is the little nobodies on the roster that can't have a title. The only time there should be interim titles, and I've been a big proponent of this to begin with, is when you have an injury to obviously your champion, or if the champion doesn't defend for an elongated period of time. And even in that case, I think the champion should be stripped. In Conor McGregor's case, I think it's, Tristan brings up a good point. Maybe it's not right now that it needs to be stripped, but I think that there has to be a limit on how long you can hold up your division. The interim title should just be for injuries to the champion. That way that, it sets up, the UFC's, I'm not opposed to having more titles, but I want it over more divisions, right? Because titles bring in viewership. When you have a title versus title, or when you have, two guys vying for the new whatever pound championship, that brings in new viewers because it adds an element of pressure. It adds an element of mystique to the fight. It's not just two guys fighting, and that should be enough, With the storyline behind guys, with winning streaks behind guys, that should be enough. But when you add that gold in, when they're fighting for not just respect and ranking and money, they're fighting for that word, that champion, that title, championship, that brings in, a lot of people to see what, who is considered that best fighter in any sport, who is the best, right? So I don't necessarily think that interim titles are the championships I want to be introduced to all the time. But I do think more titles is a good thing for the UFC. Tristan says, Yancey by round 2 TKO. Okay, Tristan. Derek Lewis by round 2 TKO and Northcutt by decision. Very good picks. Sage has been fighting a lot better lately, man. And not, in ways you can not in ways you'll be able to look at a video and say, man, on a highlight film, say, man, Sage has improved his X, Y, and Z on the ground, or he's improved his striking in this way. But it's just his approach to the fight. He's not a 19, he is 20, I think, or 21, but he doesn't fight like he's a newcomer in the UFC. He's starting to fight like a veteran. He's starting to set pace rather than flurry. He's starting to use his distance control that he should, in any fight he gets into, should be one of his strengths is distance control from that karate style, that darting in and sliding out style. And he's a very athletic, very quick young guy. He's finally starting to use that. And, training with Team Alpha Male up there in Sacramento is starting to develop, a little bit of a ground game. I'm not going to say it's anything spectacular. He's not the next, Glover Teixeira or Khabib or, Daniel Cormier, who's going to be ragdolling folks. He's not any Dan Henderson, anything like that. He's not any even, a submission guillotine artist like a Uriah Faber. But what he is doing is he's able to handle himself and not panic on the ground right now. Granted, he fought in his last fight as striker. But the more you see him in the training room and the more you see him rolling and wrestling with these guys that know, that are some killers like a Chad, and granted Chad's a little bit smaller than he is. But Chris Holdsworth, Darren Elkins, those guys, you see the potential that Sage Northcutt has. And I'm not saying that, he's going to be a world champion, but when you get into the sport that young and you grow up in front of our eyes and you grow up in the UFC, there's no equal to experience at the highest level, right? When you get thrown right in the fire, it either burns you out or you get used to it and you grow, right? You sink or swim when you're thrown in the deep end, and he's in that transition period where he's trying to swim, and I hope he does. The only thing about, let's see. Yeah. I really liked his last fight. He fought another striker, stayed out of the danger zone, landed where he could, used his double leg, and he's explosive. His double legs, while he's not the best technical wrestler, his double legs are explosive, man. He launches guys. And again, working with Team Alpha Male, he was easily able to use that double leg, get to it, get up on the cage, use the cage to finish his takedowns. Granted, he wasn't holding anyone down on the ground for the longest time. But again, it was a good level change for him. It was a good speed change for him. It was something that you could see that he'd improved on from previous fights. Cowboy just walked in. I just want you guys to know, Cowboy just walked in wearing what looked like the smoothest poncho or the smoothest Desperado quilt on him, with obviously the cowboy hat, repping. I mean, he's not. Yeah, he's in New Mexico, but repping Austin to the fullest tonight. I mean, he looked straight up like a desperado walking in. You gotta love Cowboy, man. Cowboy is one of these guys. That poncho was sick, wasn't it? Cowboy is one of those guys. I mean, dressed on all black like he's freaking Johnny Cash. What a gangster, man. I love watching Cowboy fight. And you hope to God that he can find a way out of this hole. But you got to give the man credit. I mean, he's the most game guy in the 170 right now. He's just taking on guys that necessarily don't have the name that guys like Robbie Lawler or Tyron Woodley have, who he's definitely, at least maybe before this 0-3 losing streak, was definitely in that conversation, in that top 5 to top 7 range. But he's taking these guys that are dangerous, and everyone, I've said this in many of our reaction podcasts and our breakdown podcasts, that 170 is murderer's row. All these guys are dangerous. And the only guy that's, in that top 10, right at the top 10, I think he's with 11 right now. The only guy in that range that's taking these guys and saying, all right, let's see what you got is Cowboy. Nobody more game and more gangster than that. Yeah, I think he was 5 or 6, and Jorge Masvidal beat him. And then I think he was at 7 or 8 when Robbie Lawler beat him. And they were talking about the winner of that fight getting Tyron Woodley. Or at my RDA. Yeah, Yancey did give him a new hat at the press conference or at the weigh-ins. Yancey was talking about it too. He's like, how can I hate this guy, man? This is Cowboy I'm fighting. I mean, guys respect him across the UFC. Derek Lewis got right in Marcin Tabora's face at the weigh-ins. Derek Lewis coming off a loss, guys. What do you think about? I mean, this was after Derek Lewis talked about retiring. Mark Hunt beat him. What do we think is going to happen tonight with that? I mean, Marcin Tabora stood in 5 rounds with Fabricio Verdum. And, obviously, it wasn't that Marcin Tabora was winning any of those rounds, or maybe he might have won, gotten close to getting the nod, and I think it was round 2. But for the most part, Verdum dominated that fight, but Verdum breaks guys. Verdum's conditioning is tops at heavyweight. And Marcin Tabora stood in there, took some big shots, took some heavy shots from Verdum, and stood with him. Young guy, Don't count this dude out in the fight today. Have I heard the CM Punk versus Mayweather rumor? I heard it on Joe Rogan's podcast. And I think it's BS, because that if the UFC goes that route, Tristan, I'll answer that really quick. Sage is 22, actually. If the UFC decides they're going to go full entertainment, screw any sort of competitive atmosphere to their fights, and does this, they will lose so much respect, because then it becomes the WWE, right? And I'm a WWE guy. But we're talking about legitimate fighting in a sanctioned sport. That is not a legitimate fight. That is, in fact, a show that could get someone seriously hurt. Mayweather is the best boxer, arguably the best boxer, not even arguably, the best technician in boxing to ever live, versus a guy that's had one fight, not just a professional fight, one fight. That's like literally Mayweather walking up to a guy in the street that works at a club as a bouncer, that weighs around 180 pounds, and punching him in the face. That's how that fight's going to go. Lomachenko is, but let's give Lomachenko some more time. I'm pound for pound, I think Lomachenko's number 1 right now. He's doing some amazing things, but let's give Loma some time before we start automatically saying he's better than Mayweather technically. At the moment, yes, Mayweather has fallen off a little bit. But over that span of 50 fights, no one was a better technician. Let's give Loma maybe, a couple more years because he's just now, especially in the professional ranks, just now hitting that prime form. Stevens, a.k.a. Udafug. But yeah, that fight is garbage. CM Punk will fight. I can't remember who they said he was supposed to fight. But it looks like he's going to fight again in the UFC. Typical Dana White going back on the word. But that's what he said. He said he was going to fight Mike Jackson. That's who it was. Thank you, Tristan. They're saying he might fight Mike Jackson, which I can't lie and say I don't want to. I don't want to see CM Punk again. I don't want to see him fight anybody that's 100% going to walk right through him, which could be pretty much everybody in the UFC. But I do want to see, he's down. Who's he with? He's with Duke Rufus, I think. I want to see if he's improved any. Granted, he might be 40 years old at this point, but can you improve in that amount of time? It's a very interesting question, especially for a guy like myself who wants to document the sport in all phases. What is the mitigating factor to improvement at that age? What's the mitigating factor to only doing mixed martial arts for 5 years, or not even 5, 3 years? How much in that time frame can you learn the skills that guys have possessed for 10, 15 years, Okay, yeah, so do you want to see him fight someone he can actually stand? Yeah, pretty much, which is slim to none in the UFC. With CM Punk, there's not a lot of guys he's going to actually stand a chance against. I just want to see a fight where he can show any improvement at all. Any symbol of improvement. It doesn't mean that he's going to win the fight. It doesn't even mean that he's going to be competitive. I just want to see something from him, right? Not just because I'm a UFC fan and I'm a fight fan that loves to see guys improve over fights and come back from adversity, but, as a fan of CM Punk, I want to see a guy that ventured out and tried to do something that wasn't very popular, and a lot of guys, laughed at him and said he couldn't do it. I want to see a guy like that succeed to a certain degree, whatever success is to him. If that means getting in there and lasting 3 rounds, if that means getting in there and winning a fight, I don't know. But I think success to me, if I were him, were to be, get in there after having 3 years of training and do better than my last fight, try to survive, try to implement some of my own game and just, improve. If I can improve every fight that I have, that's a win to me. That's a goal that can be obtainable. Yeah, giving him Mickey Gall right at the gate was ridiculous, man. BJ Penn would throw him on his head and ground and pound him to death. So yeah, really quick before the Sage Northcutt fight versus Guti here. That would be hilarious, giving BJ Penn. Get BJ a win on his way out. Basically, Derek Lewis had called Travis Brown a woman beater leading up to their fight, or a woman, yeah, I think he's a woman beater for the accusations Travis Brown had against some domestic violence stuff with his ex-wife that I don't think was ever really proven, but was an accusation. I think, and then obviously, leading up to their fight, he really made that known, and made it known that he wasn't a big fan of that, which no one is. And I think he took exception to that, and then to throw some salt in the wound, he was talking after he beat Travis. He was talking about hooking up with Ronda Rousey, which is hilarious. I think Derek Lewis is one of the funniest fighters in the UFC. He's hilarious, man. All right, boys, here we go. Sage Northcutt. (9-2). Minus 315 odds here for Sage. Big home crowd ovation for Sage fighting in Texas again tonight. I think he's from Katy, though, not Austin, but still. Let's see what Sage does in this fight, man. Sage comes out with a nice jab. Push kick. Uses some of that Taekwondo. Tries an inside leg kick and misses. Gucci putting some pressure on Sage now. Coming forward. Oh, Gucci with the right hook. Wobbled Sage a little bit. Nasty double leg from Sage. Top pressure from Sage. Side control immediately. Gucci tries to regain half guard. Not working. Sage in side control. That's a nice right hook from Gucci. And then Sage immediately with the power double leg. Threw him down. Sage staying really close in that side control. This is what I want to see from Sage. I want to see this Team Alpha Male Wrestling being implemented. Control on the ground. Get to a good position and use that ground and pound. Use that explosiveness on the ground. That's what I want to see. But yeah, beautiful takedown right there. And guys, if you don't know where the fight is, this is free tonight, by the way. It's on FS1. Those hammer fists aren't really doing a lot, but it's a good job of staying tight. Oh, is that? Sage still in side control. Sage doing a good job of controlling a lot of the sprawls here from Gucci. Gucci doesn't look like a guy that particularly is great off his back. But you trying to use that explosiveness to slip around. Oh, big hammer fist. And Sage right back to side control. Got a cradle now. Sage trying to transition to the back, but Gucci's up. Sage with another push kick. Gucci's got some nice power in his hands, man. He caught Sage with the right hook. Nice inside leg kick from Gucci. Returned by Sage. Outside leg kick from Sage. Down to the head. But he did feel some power right there. 100%. Oh, big right hand again caught Sage. Uh-oh. And Sage tried to shoot. Gucci's got guillotine standing. Looks like Sage is trying to fight it. Man, Sage left that head out there and got caught twice. That right hook is landing flush, but Sage has cleared his head now, it looks like. Trying to defend the takedown. Got an overhook. We'll see how fresh the cobwebs are here for Sage. This is the first time since the golf fight he's been in trouble. Takes a look at the clock. Now Sage got a hand under the neck. Just trying to fight that takedown. Spread the legs. Stay wide on the cage. Looks like he's recovered a little bit, but man, that was a... He tried to go guillotine, it looked like, but Sage stuffed it pretty quick. Guillotine. If that's what you meant, Tristan. All right. Go both guys back to the center of the octagon here. The heralded Uriah Faber in Sage's corner. Watch that right hook again, man. Yikes. Sage using that front leg side kick to the body. And Gucci, Sage staying in the pocket there a little bit. That's dangerous. Woo! Wheel kick. God, Sage's wheel kick so fast. Nice step in elbow from Sage. Gucci staying with forward pressure. Northcutt circling toward that right side, which is always a little bit scary. Oh, tried for the spinning elbow. Did Gucci. Gucci still keeping forward pressure. A mouse under his eye a little bit. Sage fighting against the cage, which you don't like. But now Sage comes forward. Takes the center of the octagon. Sage's hands down. That karate stance. Gucci shoots. Sage stuffs. Back to the center of the octagon for both guys. Sage's left eye's got a little bit of a mouse as well. Maybe from that check left hook before the right hand earlier in the fight from Gucci. And this first round's been a action-packed first. Gucci wants to spin. Now Sage tries to go for the single. Power single didn't go. Oh, there's that spin. Gucci, you can see it coming. That he wants to spin. Good first, man. Good first. Hard to give it to. I mean, I would have to give that. Yeesh. What do you guys think? I think with the... Sage did land a power double to start the round. controlled for about a minute on the ground. Didn't land any significant damage. Guti got out of there with sort of an explosion, then scramble off the cage. I would say Guti maybe with the first round, just because I think Sage, once he felt the power and shot him for that double, definitely knew it was there, but still got caught again right after they got back up. So, he has to respect that right hand. Yeah, Sage leaves his head right there, man. Jay says UFC is struggling without big names. Jay, my response to that would be the UFC is not trying to build big names. The UFC is relying on their big names and sometimes, right on the chin. The UFC is relying on their bigger names to carry them versus what a promotion company should be doing in promoting names to make them bigger. The public will grasp onto people that are likable. They'll grasp onto a simple story or a simple guy that is relatable and wins fights. If the guy can speak well, if he can, handle himself in a press conference or in a business setting or just as a representative of the company, you got to think about it. Before Conor McGregor, there were superstars. Sorry, guys. It's 428, 427 in round 2. Before Conor McGregor, there were guys that, were stars in the UFC that weren't particularly great talkers. Tito Ortiz, Chuck Liddell, Randy Couture, guys that were relatable. Guys, even though Tito was, playing that villain role. Nice step-in left hook from Guti. Man, Guti's hands giving Sage some problems here. Whoever said no head movement from Sage, accurate assessment. Nice oblique kick from Guti, inside leg kick. Another step-in left hook. Those both have landed. Now that jab. Right hand caught him clean. Now Guti in half guard. And he is tagging Sage. Guti in a tight half guard, almost side control. Sage on his back. This is not good for Sage Northcutt. This is not where he is comfortable at all. Let's see what this Team Alpha Male training has helped him on the back, because he is shown to be almost a novice off of his back. And this is where his game needs to improve. He is going to get better in the UFC. He's up against the cage. This is where you would like to cage walk. Guti doing a good job staying close. Pressuring. Now he's going to drag him off the cage. Employing almost a Khabib-style leg trap. Sage gets out a little bit. Guti staying tight. Holding Sage against the cage against the cage. Holding Sage down against the cage. Controlling his legs. Now he lets him up a little bit. Again, still controlling on the cage. Sage has got to get up. Stay wide. Nice pressure from Guti. The open hand slapped from Sage. Stop giving us the finger. Another takedown from Guti. Guti, and the announcers just talked about this, for him to be tagging Sage as much as he is on the feet, I'm surprised he doesn't try to stand this back up. Sage hasn't really done a crazy amount of damage to Guti on the feet. I know he's very confident in the fact that he can control Sage on the ground, and why not? Sage hasn't shown that he can defend himself off of his back that well, but he is doing a good job of not, there goes Guti controlling off the cage there. But Guti is doing a great job on his feet. I don't understand why not keep trying to tag Sage and look for that finish. Sage with the elbow to the back there. That's what I was thinking. Guti needs to try to pull him off the cage, I would think. This is where Khabib does a lot of his work on the cage, but what he does is trap those legs, which you saw Guti do as soon as he got him down. But now it looks like Guti's either trying to catch a little breath here, or I'm not exactly sure what the plan is, other than holding him on the cage, and now they're separated. Wasn't a lot going on there, but this is where Guti has won the fight for the most part. Is on the feet. Nice right hand from Sage though. Body kick. Sage with a nice jab. Looks like Guti might be a little tired. That might be what we saw there, was a little bit of breath catching. Sage still looking fresh, though. The right hand can still unload on Sage right here. Nice body kick from Guti. Nice jab from Sage. But that head is staying directly on the center line. For whoever said that in the chat. It's a great assessment. Sage's chin has been caught many times in this fight. Credit to Sage, though, man. It is not easy to recover from those big shots sometimes, and he's done it twice here. Sage spinning heel kick to the body. That's another round for Guti, I would assume. Caught him quickly in the round and, controlled him on the ground. Didn't do a lot, but controlled him there. Sage appears to be frozen by the crowd. That could be playing a factor. He is technically, that's not his hometown, but Austin's very close to Katie, and he's got, obviously, the home crowd feel there. A lot of guys rooting for him. Yeah, Tristan, I was going to say that when Guti got Sage to the ground, it was eerily reminiscent of what Khabib does to a lot of guys. As soon as he got him down, didn't really mind that Sage was on the cage. Instead, trapped the legs, which you see Khabib do. Even when he has the opportunity to get mount, he just literally puts a clamp down with his legs on the opponent's legs and sits there and just elbows and punches, and then regains position again once the opponent tries to cage walk, ragdolls to the ground, clamps the legs down again. That's what I thought I would see from Guti in that position, but it was looked more like he was using that position to rest a little bit. Jay, main event prediction. What did I say, guys? Did I say Yancey, first round TKO? Nice front leg side kick from Sage. One to the body, one to the oblique. Oh, to the face. Oh, was it a kick to the dick? What happened? That was a nice front leg head kick. Front leg side kick to the head. I don't know what happened there. He said toe to the eye. Guti showing a little bit more pace to start this round. Another front leg oblique kick. Now Guti returns. The side kick's being implemented by Sage. I think something in the corner, maybe Uriah, someone in Sage's corner, making sure he uses those kicks that he is so good at. Those front leg side kicks that you see him starting to get away from sometimes, but he is deadly with. That front leg side kick to the oblique, man, that's gotta hurt. First off, it forces you off that lead leg. It forces you to slow your pace coming forward. Not only that, but man, it can snap a kneecap in a heartbeat. But Guti keeps coming forward. Sage goes for a takedown, stuffed by Guti. Nice jab from Sage. Guti switching styles. Going southpaw, now back orthodox. Trying to keep pressure on Sage. I think Sage needs to win this round to win the fight. And maybe even then might not be enough. I think Guti might have got the first. He definitely got the second. Another takedown from Guti on the cage. Ooh, elbow to the back of the head. Yeah, there's 3:20 left in the third. Sage has got to win this round. Yeah, Sage has got to win this fight right here. Jay, it's tough, man. I want to see Sage take it to that next level. He's still young. You guys got to remember, Sage is 22. Robert Whittaker had three losses on his resume by the time he hit, championship form. You can't count this guy out just yet, but at the same time, you've got to see some improvement in his takedown defense. If he's gonna, top, especially the top guys at lightweight. I mean, Khabib's gonna be around unless he moves to 170, which actually might happen after this Tony Ferguson fight. But you got to see better takedown defense, which is kind of non-existent as of right now. That's 2 in a row on the cage. You know, it's a tough position to be in, but Cage has put himself in that position by staying on the cage in the stand-up. By allowing Goody to force the pace in the fight and staying against the cage, Sage is allowing this you know, position for Goody, because it's not Sage's game is not to fight in close quarters proximity. It's to use those kicks to dart in and out, to create space and distance, and just hasn't been able to do it this fight. On the feet, when Goody's got into the pocket, he's thrown great left step in left hooks and the right hand behind it. Sage has shown, I mean, in the third round came out showing beautiful kicks. I mean, that's the explosiveness you see from a guy like Sage that can really make a difference in a fight. Sage maybe looking for a guillotine here, but a good point made by, I'm not sure who's on commentary tonight, but you really need to have those hips engaged to finish that guillotine. 1 minute, 25 seconds left here in the third. But that side kick to the head was amazing. The ref separated that? Another front leg side kick. Nice jab from Goody. Sage sticking behind his jab. We got 1:07 left. Both guys center of the octagon. Now Sage shoots. Stuffed. Got the single leg, high crotch. Pushes up Goody up against the cage. 55 seconds. I think Sage needs a finish here, folks. We might be looking at Sage. We're probably looking at Sage Northcutt's third loss right here. Yeah, Tristan, I'm not necessarily in favor of guys being separate. Oh, big step in elbow. That was a nice elbow off the release of the clinch. 34 seconds. Both guys trade jabs. Goody stays coming forward. Sage with the double leg attempt, stuffed again. Goody's got great position for knees here, but as pointed out by the announce team, I think Goody might be a little tired, content to hold his position. Sage is trying to defend the hands. 9 seconds left. So they separate. Oh, my goodness. That was it. Cartwheel kick from Sage to end the fight, or an attempt at it. I think that's going to be a... that could be very easily be a 30-27. Goody. I like to... Sorry, Nitro. On the break, so Sage was against the cage. My bad. Sage was against the cage, and they broke. And as soon as they broke, like Sage broke the clinch and threw a nasty short elbow and caught Goody with it and kind of not wobbled him, but, you know, he felt it for sure, 100%. And Sage tried to capitalize by shooting a double leg, got stuffed, and that was pretty much the end of the fight. I didn't like that separation, though. That was granted that there weren't a lot of heavy punches being landed by Goody in the ground and pound, but as soon as Sage was stepping up and trying to cage walk, Goody was taking him back down to the ground every single time. That has to count for something. I mean, grappling is a part of MMA. If you're going to separate guys who are staying active, in the case of Sage getting up off the cage, in the case of Goody planting him back down on the ground, I don't understand that. Sorry, Nitro, that was my bad. I got so excited I didn't announce who did what. My fault. Let me know what you guys think. Is that a 30-27? Is that a 29-28? I could see that going 30-27 unanimous. Hey, man, somebody's got to keep me sharp. It's been a while. I'm a little rusty, man. I'm a little rusty. You know what? 29-28. I'll give Sage the first. Yeah, 29-28. Wow. They gave Sage the dub. Wow. Um, you guys have had home cooking before, right? You guys know what home cooking is. Sage just got a good helping of home cooking right there in Texas. In my opinion. That's in my opinion. Jimmy Smith's on commentary. That's who it is, guys. Of course, this guy, that's why commentary is so good tonight. Guy's a freaking genius. Everyone's opinion. Did you guys think Sage won that fight? Yeah, I didn't either. What was that, man? Sage going full Jesus. Whoever said Sage might have been shaken up by the crowd, um, he definitely knew who was there. He just announced every single person that was in the crowd today. And so you know he was very conscious of who was there with him. So that could have been a very, very, very interesting point. How in the world do you give that total strikes? Total strikes 111 to 29. Did it look that lopsided in the fight? Was Sage's jab that crucial for that W? I mean, so it's tough. What do you consider significant? So what was the total strikes number? That was a nice jab from Sage. That was a toe to the hip bone. I don't think that was an absolutely beautiful side kick to the head. Had set it up, nice elbow, then a back fist. Had set it up with the oblique side kick and then the body side kick and then went to the head with it. And it's so quick. That was beautiful. But it was competitive, but yeah, for sure a surprise, Tristan. Absolutely. Who do I think Jon Jones will fight on his comeback? So, Jay, we were talking about this earlier in the chat. Jon Jones might be back as quickly as this year. You know, that suspension is up under review. They're actually going to have a hearing on the 27th. Yes, Tristan, this whole event is on FS1 tonight. So we're going to be here till about 11 or 12, I think. Guys, what is going on with my hat? Do you guys see that? Is it on right? I'm tripping out. It's going to be on till about 11 or 12, but yeah, main event, everything's on the FS1 on Fox Sports Go. If you guys don't have the cable, go to Fox Sports 1 or go to Fox Sports Go, I mean. If you guys are watching on a computer, phone, anything like that. Should have worn yours, Kelsey. Yeah, probably. Hat looks perfect. Eagle! The freestylers in the building. Volkan Ozdemir, that's interesting. I don't think Jon will have to run the ranks at light heavyweight to get back to DC if that's the path that they choose, you know, him and the UFC choose. I think Jon comes back, maybe not as early as this year. I think that they're going to do that, you know, retroactive suspension and give him maybe 6 months, and that'll probably be in it'll be a year suspension, but it'll be retroactive from when, you know, the date of the first positive test or whatever. And retroactively, that'll only be about a 6-month suspension. So I think he'll come back probably January, maybe end of when was it? September. So I'll say either end of the year, 2018, or start of next year. And I don't necessarily think he needs to go through the ranks to get back to that title. I think they'll do the same deal as far as him fighting for a title right away, or maybe a tune-up fight, maybe something like that. But I think we've shown now that Jon Jones doesn't really suffer from ring rust. Like you said, Bad Cialis. Gus would be a great fight, man. I would love to watch Jon Jones fight Alexander Gustafsson. That's the closest fight. And again, I told you guys on my stream that I went back and watched that fight. A lot of people say Jon took over in championship rounds 4 and 5. I'm not a believer. You know, a full believer that he took over and dominated rounds 4 and 5 to win that fight. I think that fight, if you watch it 10 times, if you got 10 people to watch that fight, I think you could get a 4-6 or 5-5 on who won that fight. I really do. And Alexander Gustafsson's been off for a while now. He could use a fight. But what I think, honestly, what I think the UFC will do, the UFC being what it is now, it's not particularly a fighting promotion strictly anymore. It is a sports and, entertainment business with WME. I wouldn't see – it just depends on who wins the DC Stipe fight. I think John has done all he really needs to do at light heavyweight, at least in their opinion. In my opinion, I think that he should go fight Gus. I think he should go fight whoever the title holder is at light heavyweight at that point. If DC is still fighting, whatever it is. But if DC is our heavyweight champion, or if Stipe is our heavyweight, whoever wins that fight, I could see John using that fight too. I think that would be a great matchup for John either way. I think if DC beats Stipe, I think it'd be more realistic that Stipe or that DC would relinquish both titles and retire, because Kane is in that heavyweight division, and as much as I would love to see DC and Kane go at it, and I think that it would need to happen, granted it's tough because they're teammates, I don't think that'll happen. I think DC would vacate that title and 205 and retire. Pound for pound, one of the best to ever do it. But I think John's, to answer your question, Jay, the longest answer you've ever heard in your life, I think John comes back and fights the winner of DC and Stipe if it's close enough. If not, I think he comes back and fights whoever the heavyweight champion is, or a tune-up fight to heavyweight, just because I think there's not much, in the UFC's eyes, there's not much left for John to do at 205. And that cut, even though John is still in fighting prime, that cut isn't easy for a guy that walks around at 240. He wouldn't touch Stipe. 1-round KO. Chat, what do you think? Could John Jones hang with Stipe? My opinion is absolutely John Jones can hang with Stipe. John Jones' pace is nothing like Stipe's ever seen before. If you think DC can push the pace on Stipe, which I think he can, and do you think that DC has the boxing ability to hang with a Stipe, what happens when John Jones, the longer fighter that employs kicks, that has great takedown defense, that has takedowns, that has a submission game, an amazing grappler, and the pace that outpaced DC, that broke DC, gets in the ring with a Stipe Miocic? Granted, I will say this, John Jones has not seen the power that Stipe brings to a fight, has not seen that punching power. So that's something interesting. But that's what I think. I think John Jones comes back and fights a super fight at heavyweight, depending on when it is. We still don't know. There's so much still up in the air that we don't know. If John comes back at the end of the year, we could see a John versus DC3. Do you guys want to see that? Because I particularly don't. I don't, man. I don't want to see DC reconfirm what we already know, is that John Jones is the better fighter. I think, I would love to see John fight a Gus. That would be amazing. But it would take, Gus being that light heavyweight champion, or, an interim belt against Gus. I could see that too. But I just think that John Jones at this point, in the UFC's eyes, they want him to go to heavyweight. He's teased going to heavyweight for way too long now. I could see it. That Brock Lesnar fight that John Jones called out when he beat DC is still on the table too. Brock's contract, I think, in the WWE is up somewhere around mid-July, I think. I want to say. Don't quote me on that. But that fight's still there. If John is looking for that super fight, which he said he was in the Conor McGregor style, that fight's still there for him too. Tristan says Stipe is the worst possible matchup for Jones in the UFC right now. I don't think so, man. I don't think Stipe is the worst possible matchup for John Jones. I think Stipe, the one thing that Stipe has that John Jones hasn't seen, is the one-punch knockout power to shut the lights off. And Jones does get hit. Let's not make any mistake about it. John Jones has been tagged before. So I don't. But the thing is, John Jones' pace and Stipe's pace are two different things. John Jones can put pressure on Stipe and do it for 5 rounds and be there in his face. And you guys forget, John Jones is what? I mean, Stipe's a tall guy, but John Jones is a lanky, very tall guy. Employs his kicks to perfection. His grappling is, I would say, on a different level than Stipe's. 100%. He's a better grappler than Stipe is. I think John Jones would toss around Stipe. To be dead honest with you, I think John Jones could have his way grappling with Stipe. John has a great chin. Stipe has a sour. Stipe has size, power. Can cut off the cage better than any Jones ever fought. Okay, that's true. But how long can Stipe do that for? We've seen Stipe's pace. I'm not saying that Stipe can't show us more, but Stipe, even against Francis Ngannou, who is a bigger fighter, no mistake about it, Francis Ngannou is a true heavyweight. John's still around 230, 240. He's a big guy. And with the pace that John puts on people to break people, I don't think Stipe can cut John off the entire fight, can be in John's face the entire fight, throwing big shots. And, you know, his advantage in the Francis fight was his wrestling. In any other fight that I've seen Stipe, at least the last 5 or 4, was the ability to pressure fighters and use his boxing, right? Controlled pressure, not a crazy fast, out-in-your-face, Khabib winging punches running in pressure. Controlled pressure, using his boxing technique, which I would say Stipe is the more technical and powerful boxer than John. But John has more than just his boxing. His wrestling is there. His kicks are there. It would be more, I think it wouldn't be the worst matchup for John. I think somebody like Fabricio Verdum might be a bad matchup for John. But he can't hurt. I'm sure Tristan says he can't hurt or control Stipe. I think he could control Stipe's grappling. I think he could grapple Stipe and control grappling very easily. And again, championship rounds, the only time we've seen Stipe in championship rounds, he was against a pretty much gone and dead Francis Ngannou and very, very tired. Stipe was not fresh, was not ready to go. We've seen John Jones in a flat-out war in championship rounds, breaking guys, breaking DC, the unbreakable DC. And, you know, and as much as I might not agree with it, I don't know. I go back and forth when I watch the fight, but him and Alexander Gustafsson, probably one of the best fights I've ever seen. Both guys still throwing, I mean, granted, that was a flat-out war, but both guys still standing there, ready. Championship rounds, man. John Jones has got a will that just doesn't break. And I don't know. Announced Mayweather has declined the fight. Jay just talked about Floyd or Conor announcing that Mayweather declined or reneged his business negotiations with the UFC. Did you guys see the post that Conor put on? You can't, there's not going to be anybody like Conor McGregor ever again, man. There's just not. Even when he is trolling, he has this mystique and just goofy seriousness about him that you can't even pin, no one else can do. You know what I mean? It's just like, even when he's showing, respect to a fighter, it's the most fake troll respect, and it's so funny. There's never going to be anybody like him, man. He's a unicorn, 100%. If I was going to quote Brendan Schaub, he's for sure a unicorn. But yeah, man, that John Jones matchup when he gets back is a very interesting topic to discuss, man, because there's something about the guy that just, he has no limit to where he'll go, There's no way to break John Jones, at least none that we've seen. The closest we've seen is the Gustafsson fight, and then Vitor Belfort bending John's arm back, looked like it was hyperextended, and couldn't even use his arm on the Ultimate Fighter. If you guys remember back when he was coaching with Chael Sonnen, I think he couldn't even use his arm because he had just, Vitor had screwed him up so badly. Dislocates his toe and doesn't even feel it in the fight against Chael. And then submits Vitor, which is crazy. The guy's just, has Jones ever been rocked? I don't know about rocked to the point where he was wobbled around, but DC caught him with some nice punches. Gustafsson hit him with some good shots, but not rocked, no. I don't want to say he's ever been rocked like that. I mean, his chin is amazing, but it goes for all of them. At some point, it goes for everyone, you know. It's just how much abuse can John take? And John does get hit. 100% he does. But those finger pokes of doom work in his favor, too. Let's not forget that Winkle John finger poke of doom is definitely a factor when John fights, man. McNuggets would destroy Tony Ferguson. I think he'd have a good shot of catching Tony coming in. I think Tony could give him some problems with Tony's pace. Rounds 3, 4, and 5, Tony could really, really put pressure on Conor. And let's not forget, Tony has good hands, too. Now, they're not the most technical boxing, but he tends to catch guys. His jab's really nice. And then if he were able to grapple with Conor, that's a big problem for Conor. Tony grappling, especially later in the fight. But I could see Conor catching him on the way in, 100%. The way Conor drops his left hand on people, and he invites them in, and it's not even that it's telegraphed either. Conor does so much that, you have to go back and really watch how he probes fighters, man. Just stuff to set up. Like, you go back and even watch his early fights against Max Holloway, who was a longer, rangy fighter. Granted, Max was very young at the time, but so was Conor. Conor was 24 or 25. And just using his kicks that, if you ever see Conor throw kicks, most of the time they're that push front kick. That little, southpaws use it a lot, the combo with the left straight, then the head kick behind it. A lot of Conor's kicks set up to his left straight, down the pipe. Yeah, Tristan, I'm with you. I've seen John hurt. I've seen DC catch him especially in that second fight with that dirty boxing in the clinch, those uppercuts. He was landing big shots on John to the point where I thought DC, it's arguable DC won the first 2 rounds. But again, that's nothing new with John. John, has lost rounds in championship fights before. I think he lost multiple rounds to Gustafsson. But the guy, has some kind of not give a damn to where he can just, even being down in fights, stay, calm and composed and keep championship form and come back and either win fights or, in the Daniel Cormier fight, win by stoppage. Is it weird that southpaws get more KOs than orthodox? I think they're just harder to prepare for, especially when, you have a guy that's so punch heavy like Conor. And in MMA, everything's hard to prepare for, man. It's so much different than if you watch, boxing is as much as it's the sweet science is a very limited sport, right? It's who is the best puncher and who is the best at avoiding getting punched. In MMA, the reason a southpaw is so dangerous, in my opinion, is because I don't even think it's just southpaws that are dangerous. I think it's guys that can switch stances and level change. Who's the best level changer, right? Who's the best feinter? Who is the best at getting you to think one thing is happening and then hitting you with something that you don't expect in multiple facets? And that's why I think TJ Dillashaw is so good. That's why I think Edson Barbosa is so good. Some guys, it's coming, like a Khabib. Ooh, the promo for Jeremy Stevens versus Josh Emmett. Ooh, buddy. Stevens will dispose of Emmett. Possibly. He's looked great in his last couple fights, man. He has looked great. Dealt with some big problems from guys in fairly easy work. What time is the Cerrone fight? What time is it? 9:54. I would say it's on at about 30:45. It's the main event. Cerrone and Medeiros is the main event tonight. So I would say about 30:45. I'm not drinking air. Yep, you got me. I got to get my oxygen, man. I just went for a run. It's the first time since my bicep surgery. I got to drink in as much oxygen as I can. Oh, it's good oxygen right there. But that's why I think I'm in England and it's 3 a.m. Dang, Jay, the commitment to the W.A.D.E concept. I appreciate it, brother. I'm always working during fights. Mario, I'll do my best to give you up-to-date information and pinpoint commentary on that fight. So if you are working and you can't watch, you can be here with us, hanging out, having a good time, and we'll do our best to keep you informed. Jay, staying up at 3 a.m. I appreciate it, brother. But yeah, Southpaws, and this is, I was watching something the other day, and I was, you know what, if you guys aren't big fans of boxing, or maybe you are, you guys remember Prince Nassim Muhammad, and he was so difficult to prepare for. Granted, he had, and it's a disappointing because he had such good technique and speed, and his chin was just, made of glass late in his career. But you watch him, and he was so innovative, man. That step in, it's basically named after him at this point, the Nas uppercut. That step in right hand uppercut. It's about over an hour away. Is it? I thought we only had 2 more fights. Maybe it's about an hour away, Mario. I apologize. You always do headphones are in. I appreciate it, though. We'll be here, man. I'll keep you up to date. Thank you, Mario. Tristan, nice of school night. Hey, man, I appreciate it. Get your studies in, though, man. School is very important. I appreciate you being here. Get those studies in. But yeah, that Nas uppercut, it's so influential, man, and it's so hard to prepare for. It's that lead hand uppercut, and you shift your feet almost like a hop, step in uppercut, and Conor uses it beautifully. And you just see different styles implemented, especially from guys that can rely on. Oh, yikes! Peterson has his back here, trying to shuck off. Nice shuck by Davis. When you see guys that can implement different styles like that you don't see a lot in MMA, especially crisp boxing like Conor brings, then you can use those styles to be your core, right? To be what you do in your base, and then implement some taekwondo and some different stuff, jiu-jitsu, whatever it is. Like Conor McGregor uses a lot of taekwondo kicks. He uses his standing push kick, his oblique kick. He even uses a wheel kick, not only it rarely lands, but what it does, and what you can't do in boxing, is if you're a southpaw, you want to keep that lead foot on the outside of your opponent so that they can't circle out of your your power hand range, right? So say you're southpaw and you're fighting someone orthodox, whoever it is, even another southpaw, they're going to move to that right hand away from your power hand. And once they get out of your range and they get their lead foot on the outside of your foot, especially an orthodox fighter, you're almost utterly useless. You have to regain position. In MMA, it's different. Conor or anybody can use that wheel kick to keep someone in range to say, hey, look, you get outside of my punching range, I still got this spinning wheel kick to hit you with, or I've still got one to the body for you. So it keeps an opponent in check, and at the same time, is used as a weapon, obviously, if the left hand can't reach. So I think southpaws, not particularly southpaws, but guys that can just use different techniques to mask what they're doing in the stand-up are the most dangerous fighters. These guys are featherweights. Man, it's a big problem, Tristan. It's a huge problem. Guys that aren't fighting at their weight, and you start seeing guys that are fighting at 170 or 185 like Luke Rockhold, who is 100% a natural 215 to 220 pound guy. They don't look like middleweights. A true middleweight is what Israel, I can't pronounce his last name. Someone, you guys help me out with his last name. Adesanya, that he looks like a true middleweight. But you got these guys fighting at 145 that are natural 175ers. It's crazy, man. Absolutely crazy. Do you think the Nelson versus Matt was judged right? I watched it. It was tough, man, because it goes back to MMA judging and how do you do it. There's been so much surrounding, what is worth more points, right? So Roy Nelson dominated the fight on the ground. Matt's stand-up was better than Roy's in that fight, but when Roy had that, what was it? He was in mounted crucifix and just wailing shots down and could have finished the fight right there at the end of the fight. Man, that's got to count for something, right? So it's tough. It's tough to go either way. I mean, I can see it going. I can see it going toward Roy's side. I personally thought Matt won the fight, but it's just the until we have a more precise consensus on what is worth more points or what is worth more to the naked eye, as the fight's going on. They said Eddie Bravo or Joe Rogan had talked about Eddie Bravo having almost a foolproof plan or foolproof judging system where he would, write out a sheet on, I guess he had a specific category and what counted for more in takedowns, ground game, defense from ground game, takedown defense, jiu-jitsu off your back, mounted jiu-jitsu, standing punches, significant strikes versus total strikes, all that. And he would, round by round go through and see how he scored the fight. But until we get a clear consensus on what, especially with the unanimous or the unified rules and who's accepting and who's not, until we get a consensus from commissions on what is going to be judged and how it's going to be judged, it's tough, man. Yeah, the 4th round tiebreaker would have cleared a lot up. Israel and Till are future champions. Jay, if you've been rocking with us since day one, I'm on the Till bandwagon since day one. Well, not day one, but since right after, that first round against Donald Cerrone, I was like, look, man, I know this is a small sample size, but then I went back and watched a lot of his fights before. The way the guy moves, how big that kid is for 170. And I'm not a proponent of guys cutting that much weight, but if you can do it and it's within the rules, it is what it is. But boy, that guy's got a future at 170. What scares me a little bit is this should be the time where they're promoting him and putting him on that Liverpool card or, any kind of card. I think there's a UFC pay-per-view in London. I think the Liverpool card is a fight night and there's a pay-per-view in London. Correct me if I'm wrong, but guys got to get him on a card. I'd love to see him fight Gunnar Nelson. I know there were talks about it, and I don't know what happened to him, if they've fallen through or what it is, but you have to keep guys like that active so the public can see him and so he can get those big-name fights. Steven Struve, just go to 125. Struve versus Mighty Mouse. Set it up. Who reminds you of McGregor, Tristan? Israel or Till? Till, if you're talking about Till, 100%. His stance, that wide karate stance, I love the way he pressures fighters and almost dares you to retaliate and then hits you with the counter. That's what I was talking about with Conor, too. An offensive counter fighter. Control the pace, and then when the aggression or the counter comes from the opponent, step back and land a big left. And he even saw in the Cerrone fight, he adjusted from just the way Cerrone was defending. Cerrone was using kind of the cross guard, not even a cross guard, but an open hand guard to kind of block the straight punches after he got clapped with one early in the fight. Till uses the overhand left, cracks him with it. Then Cerrone obviously uses more of a traditional boxing guard with the hands on the ears, comes in with a step-in elbow. I mean, the guy was adjusting on the fly. And when you get a guy that's as seasoned as he is in kickboxing, when he goes to Brazil and probably got, handled in Brazil on the ground, that's what you go there to do, is to learn how to get up and learn how to fight off the ground and defend yourself. He probably got handled when he went down there, but it made him such a better fighter because you watched him pop up from that takedown. Granted, Donald is a smaller fighter, but you watched him shoot straight up from that takedown and regain position and regain dominant position on Donald, keeping, again, that outside lead foot on the outside of Donald to keep him trapped and to keep that pace moving forward on him. That guy's special. He's got a future, man. Only 25. I think he just turned 25 or 26. Young guy. His thighs the size of Cody. We talking about Struve still? I think Struve's about to fight too, isn't he? Oh, nice straight right hand from Davis. I think Till will be champion by the end of the year. Ooh, that's going out on a limb, Jay. Oh, big knee from Davis. That wobbled Peterson. Oh, another one. Peterson's still there, baby. Bleeding and all, and coming forward. Yikes, watch out. This guy loves it, man. Oh, jumping front kick. Superman punch. Peterson's game, man. He ain't going anywhere. God, that knee wobbled him something serious. That was a big knee. There you go. Yeah, Struve is fighting soon. That's what I figured. It's been a while since I saw Struve fight. 100%. Peterson not on my radar before this fight, but man, he is showing all kinds of heart. Because that was two flush knees. Get this takedown in the fight, man. Yeah, he tried, man. Got to respect that, man. Heart of a warrior. Heck yeah, man. You tune in to watch fighters get better and see new fighters. Depending on what your taste is in fighting, you got to respect a guy that just will not get out of there. Respect to that, man. Yeah, I don't want to see Stipe fighting Struve anytime soon either. Unless Struve can climb his way back, then that'll interest me in that. That'll make me interested in that fight. 100%. Okay, yes. Jay, I want to go through this with you. So, you said Till will fight Nelson, then go straight to Stephen Wonderboy, then to Woodley this year and win them all. Okay. Here's the thing. What are we in, February? So what you're saying is Till will fight 3 times this year. There's been no fight announced yet. I think the London card is in March, so he'd fight in March. Yeah, Struve does. Struve has that Jorge Masvidal trajectory to where he could be a problem, and he beat Stipe. But seems to always get that fight that he needs to win to solidify that spot in the top 5 or top 10, and comes up a little short. Okay, so the London card's in March. I don't think they still have even put him on that card. I think negotiations broke down, so he would have to fight April, May, and then, depending on how that fight goes, if he comes out clean, turn around and fight again in possibly the quickest you would think would be August, September, and then again in December. You'd have to fight basically every 2 months after April or May, depending on when that fight is. I could see him fighting 3 times this year. I just don't know if I see him fighting for the title. Granted, the UFC is behind the guy. I think it would be a great up-and-coming fighter to fight for the title. New blood in that division is always nice, especially with him being, 7? Is he 7 or 6 right now? I think he's like 7, ranked 7 or 6. But with Tyron having shoulder surgery, he's not fighting again until July. At least that's what he said he wants to do, is fight in July. And that'll be RDA. You still got Colby Covington sitting there. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is still there. Granted, I don't think he touches that title as long as Tyron's there, unless they do a trilogy at some point. Maybe either, if Tyron still holds on to that title, it's tough for Wonderboy to get that fight because fans don't want to see it. I'm talking about Till, Tristan. Jay brought up the point that he thinks Darren Till will fight for the title by the end of this year. I'm trying to find a way for him a roadmap for him to get there. I would say Till fights for the title. Granted, he wins his next 3 fights. I think it takes him 4 fights, though. I don't think it takes him 3. I think it takes him 4 fights to get there. And I can see it either early next year or mid-year next year. Nelson is the perfect fight for him. I like that fight a lot. And I think that SBG and Nelson's camp likes that fight too. Because I'm sure they know exactly who Darren Till is, and I'm sure they've heard about him for a long time. Gunnar Nelson on the ground is a monster. And, if you go back to the Ponzinibbio fight, Brandon Davis showing everybody the treetops there. If you go back to the Ponzinibbio fight, that eye poke had a major impact on that fight. Without that, you don't really know how that fight goes. You could easily see that fight go the other way toward Nelson. But Ponzinibbio is another guy. Where do you put him? That's a different topic, though. But I can see Darren Till getting Nelson. I like the Wonder Boy fight a lot with him. And, there is some kind of seeds there. Seeds are planted there. And Wonder Boy's camp will only take that fight if they think it'll get Wonder Boy back to the title. So maybe you give him Nelson, and then who would you give him? Because I don't think you go Nelson, Wonder Boy. I don't think Wonder Boy's camp is going to take that fight with him being ranked 5, even 4, whatever it is. And I don't think he moves up too much by beating Nelson. But if you give him Nelson, and then you give him maybe the loser of well, it's tough. You can't give him the loser of RDA and Tyron. Maybe Nelson, Colby Covington, if he would take that fight. I doubt it, though. I think they said they already offered and he declined. Masvidal, there you go. Maybe Jorge Masvidal. And then you could see Wonder Boy step up and say, okay, that's a championship-level fighter at this point. That will get me back to the title. So, okay, we'll go Nelson, Jorge Masvidal, Wonder Boy, and then absolutely I could see him fighting for the title. But I would think maybe early next year to mid-year next year, just because Tyron's going to be an active champion, and he always has been, but you're not going to see Tyron take more than 2 or 3 fights a year. And I think he'll fight RDA, and then I think he'll either fight Nate if they tend to go that route, or Colby Covington, depending on how Colby can work his way into that title. I would love to see Stephen Wonderboy Thompson as the champ. It's just tough because that matchup with Tyron Woodley, you can go back and forth and say that, it was an interesting fight because, and I think it was an interesting fight both times because the contrasting styles, and how do you deal with a guy like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson who can, hit you with so many different things, and it's dangerous in every position on the feet. And Tyron Woodley has the only answer we've ever seen in the UFC. That's the only time, other than the Matt Brown fight, and that was early in Wonderboy's career in the UFC. That's the only person we've seen deal with Wonderboy and dominate. I don't want to say dominate he dominated the second fight, not just because it was a standstill kind of snoozer of a fight for some people, but dominated it because in any exchange they had, who was the person in danger, right? Wonderboy was never in danger in those fights, Woodley was never in danger in those fights, and Wonderboy was in both fights. Twice in their fights in the first fight with the near guillotine, which Wonderboy's a warrior for sticking in there and not feeling that pressure and panicking. And in the second fight, and obviously with the big right hand that put him down in the first fight, and then the big right hand at the end of the second fight too. It'd be tough for me for Stephen Wonderboy Thompson to beat Tyron Woodley. You have to be able to somehow initiate an exchange with Tyron and be able to stay tight in the pocket with him. You can't stay at range with him because Tyron won't play your game. He'll just say, okay, I'm going to stay out of range. I'm going to poke you with the jab. I'm not going to dart in and get caught with something crazy. If the opportunity presents itself, I'm throwing that monster right hand or I'm taking you to the ground. That's it. No, 100%. I'm not counting. I know I'm bouncing around here, but I'm not counting Gunnar Nelson out against it's there until, again, I thought that fight goes differently if you don't get the legit half of Ponzinibbio's finger is in Gunnar Nelson's eye in that fight. That fight, in my opinion, goes differently. If not for that, it's tough, man. Props to Ponzinibbio, though, man. That guy's a killer too. That whole division. What's going on with GSP? We don't really know. We don't have any idea. Apparently, according to Firas Zahabi, he wants a money fight. He wants a super fight. And he doesn't consider Tyron Woodley a super fight, apparently. What I think it is they don't want any part of Tyron Woodley because he's a straight-up killer. And I would love to see the fight, though. I would love to see that wrestling matchup because GSP is probably one of the best MMA wrestlers there's ever been. And Tyron Woodley, man, just a pure explosion of that guy. GSP looked great, but also at the same time didn't look that good against Bisping. You know what I mean? For as long as he had off, he looked great. But for just an MMA fighter in today's UFC, he didn't look amazing. I think Tyron would have his way with him. But GSP, yeah, Jay put he wants Conor. Someone, I think Firas even said he wanted Mayweather, which is ridiculous. GSP walks around at 185, 180 pounds. That's ridiculous. He's not getting the freaking Mayweather fight. They could do the Conor fight. It'd have to be at a catch weight. or it'd have to be at 70 if GSP can make 70 still, which I think he can. I could see Khabib and Till. Jesus Christ, what a fight that would be. Hey, Khabib could still ragdoll Darren Till too, man. You hear stories about him throwing around DC in the training room and throwing around Luke Rockhold in the training room. Jesus Christ, man, that scares you. And Darren Till's nasty on the feet, but can you defend when that Russian submission machine, that Russian grappling machine gets on top of you? Till is a bad matchup, man, because he pushes the pace on Woodley, and Woodley can't stand out of range. He'll force Woodley. The reason that Darren Till's a bad matchup for Tyron Woodley is because he can defend the takedown. And Tyron Woodley, while he does have that power double and he is strong and can control, he's fighting a bigger 170er, right? The biggest 170er probably he's fought. Robbie's a big guy, but Robbie's pretty one-dimensional. Darren Till's a very young, explosive athlete himself, and he's a big guy. Walks around 205, kind of the same weight Tyron walks around at. So it's going to be hard to hold a guy like that down. And it's also not taking punches from Wonder Boy, who is a technician, man. Can knock guys out, mostly with his kicks. His punches aren't knocking everyone dead. But Darren Till's got a different level of power. And that's why I'm so interested in this RDA fight, because you'll see a guy that does have some grappling skill, at least enough to try to thwart Woodley's takedowns, right? But also his stand-up is there. You know, we saw him tagging. Granted, the knockout power isn't Woodley's power. No one has that power at 170. But we saw him tagging Robbie Lawler and throwing combos against the cage and breaking Robbie Lawler. So that's an interesting matchup for me, not only because of the RDA effect, but just to see how a striker, granted, RDA is more than a striker, he's a great grappler, but someone that can actually tag Tyron and defend that takedown and, you know, hold their own in the grappling. What happens when you have a younger, bigger fighter like Darren Till doing that? What's good, Gerald? What's good? Good to see you, man. Brother. If you guys watch a lot of Twitch, CD in the Third, man, that's my guy. Brother. Big fan of his. I know Tyron Woodley's an intelligent fighter, but I think, yeah, Tyron Woodley's probably, I mean, he fits better in 155. I think, well, I've never seen GSP at 155. I don't think he fits there. I think he fits at 170 pretty well. But he's an older guy, man. You know, they want that Conor fight. I don't know if they're going to get it. I don't think that's going to happen, at least not in the foreseeable future. But who knows? Who knows? But Tyron Woodley, to piggyback on what Tristan was saying, is probably the most intelligent champion. Because at least in the fighting aspect of it, Rashad Evans brought up a good point with Tyron Woodley, and he said, "Man, playing this game with Dana White, this back and forth, it's going to take some time off your career. You should focus on fighting and defending your title and earning that respect that you think you deserve." And I think he deserves it too. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve the respect he's asking for, but when you fight the boss, when you go against Dana White, you know it doesn't end up too well, right? Who's ever went up against Dana and beat him? Conor didn't really go up against Dana. Conor kind of took over the game, right? Tyron Woodley wants that same kind of recognition, but it was almost, the right time, the right place, the right person. All Conor McGregor, what he did was just that perfect combination of things. And Tyron Woodley wants that same kind of effect, to have those big money fights, to be the draw, to be all this. Why not focus on being the best? And he says he wants to be the best welterweight of all time. Focus on that, I'm not saying he shouldn't ask for certain things that he deserves. 100% fighters, go get your money. Go. If you have a beef with the management team, or you have something that you want to talk about with the UFC promotion, go and talk to them about it. Get your money. Stand up, and especially if you're the champ, stand up and say, "Look, I've taken on everybody at 170 that you put in front of me. Now I want this super fight too because so-and-so has it." That's fine. But at the same time, you're going to take years off your career doing this with Dana, because you're not going to be fighting. You're going to be arguing. You're going to be holding out. And all of a sudden, the Tito Ortiz effect happens, where you and Dana get into something so long that that's all you're recognized for. You're not recognized as the one of the best, if not the best 170 champion there was. But I do think Tyron Woodley, when he's been presented with different matchups, has, for better or worse, found the best way to neutralize all opponents, Damian Maia couldn't do anything with him. Couldn't get a hold of him. Couldn't try to take him down. If not for a torn labrum in the first punch that Tyron threw, I mean, he threw one right hand, and Damian Maia's eye was swelled shut. Completely shut down Damian Maia, and no one else could. Completely neutralized Stephen Thompson. Rocked Robbie Lawler, put him to sleep. I mean, the guy, he's an intelligent fighter, but Darren Till is someone that presents problems he hasn't seen yet. I'm talking about size. GSP would have his life on the line for 155. He would see the end of. Oh, yeah, if GSP came down to 155, Jesus Christ. That'd be way too much. Well, to be fair, him and Stipe have a good reason to not like Dana. Hey, I like I said, I don't think that Tyron Woodley's wrong in the fact that he deserves. If we're handing out money fights like the Oprah show, and we're saying you get a money fight, you get a money fight, you get a money fight, I don't have to see any reason why he doesn't deserve that. Curtis Millender fighting out of Fullerton. Shout out to Orange County, California. I don't think he has any reason to not ask for these fights. What I'm saying is, is it in the long run going to help you, or is it going to be one of these things that hinders your career and your quest to be the best welterweight of all time? If that's what you want to do. And Stipe has the same thing. But Stipe, they came to Stipe and offered him, granted again, right time, right place. They offered him a fight. He accepted it. It was done fairly quickly, and it's that money superstar fight that super fight that he was looking for. And hopefully Stipe starts to get the respect he deserves as well. I think Tyron is just in that position where most of the general public doesn't like his fight style because whatever you want to call that fan base, they want to see that explosion that they know is in the hands of Tyron Woodley, and they think that he plays the victim a little bit too much with the company. I personally don't believe that. I believe that Tyron Woodley is rightfully doing what he needs to do to win championship fights and holding on to that title. That's what mixed martial arts is, finding a way to solve the problem in front of you. Thiago Alves fighting still. Yeah, this sport is probably the most. I've played football for 16 years, and before I got into MMA, I thought football was the most challenging sport mentally and physically I could face because, it's basically a high-impact collision every single play if you play in a skill position or you have the ball in your hands, or if you're a safety, linebacker, where you have a running start, and most of the time you're hitting someone, right? And on the mental side of things, especially in the position of a quarterback or someone that has to read and react on the fly, I thought this sport is the most, high-level combat sport, or contact sport, I should say, that I can find. That you always have to be adjusting. You always have to be on top of your game, because if not, on that team of 53 or 60, someone else is going to take that spot from you, right? And then I discovered mixed martial arts. And when I started training, it blew my mind. Just in the little amount of training I've done and on the broad spectrum of things, think if I had done this for 10 years, 16 years, the amount of stuff that you learn in such a short amount of time is just a drop in the well of knowledge that is MMA. There's so many, and Joe Rogan says it best, there's so many levels to this, man. Daniel Cormier said it. There's so many levels to this. And Joe Rogan, just because I literally am a follower, like his podcast is a cult, I listened to him say that MMA is the highest level problem solving with the most dire consequences. And what that means to me is the guy in front of you is the problem, right? You have to solve the problem of what that guy is either trying to do or what he's trying to set up to do. And the dire consequences, whoever solves the problem first gets saved from either brain damage or some sort of appendage damage, right? Someone's going to sleep, someone's arm's getting ripped off or choked out, something is happening to you that's going to cause you permanent bodily harm. And if you don't solve that problem, it's happening to you. So there's no other sport. And I almost hesitate. Oh, nice left hook. I almost hesitate to call it, a sport. It is a sport because it's uniform, it's sanctioned. But this is combat on the highest level, hand-to-hand combat on the highest level. Granted, there are rules and regulations. It's not a street fight. But in a fight setting, in a combat sport setting, this is the highest level of sport. I pray all the time I can be in the UFC light heavyweight champion, but the sport is so unpredictable. I hope so, man. Tristan, I hope so. I don't know how long you've been training, brother, but I hope you can make it. I hope that you get your chance and to fight for a big-time promotion. All power to you, brother. I'd be your number one supporter. I know that. You make it in there, man. I'll be right there with you. I'll be singing the praises on the W.A.D.E concept. But, hey, man. Oh, big right hand. Millinger's throwing punches. Oh, nasty uppercut. Oh, he thought it was over. Now ground and pound on Alves. At this point, Alves is trying to scramble, trying to survive, but he is rocked. Another right hand, another one, left hook. Alves is out on his feet right here, man. You don't like seeing this from guys that are on their way out, but this is Alves coming forward, trying to fire back on him, though. Man, that right hand was nasty. Then he hit him with an uppercut on the cage. Someone said, what do I think is the best time to start training? I think the winner of the co-main will fight Kane for a title eliminator. That's interesting. Derek Lewis or Marcin Tybura for a title eliminator. I don't know about Derek Lewis, but I know if they brought nice takedown from Alves. Uh-oh. Straight into a guillotine, though. Nah, that's not close to being deep. I could see him fighting Marcin if he won this fight as maybe a warm-up. I don't know about a title eliminator, but maybe a warm-up for Kane to come back. I mean, I could see him fighting Derek, too. That'd be a great fight. Whoever Kane gets, if we get healthy Kane, whoever he gets, and if it's not a title fight, if it's an eliminator, like you said, Tristan, he is going to eat them alive. If we get a healthy Kane, now that's subject to whatever he's doing and how his rehab, all his surgeries, and apparently he's got a cage around his spine, which is always dangerous. But if we get a healthy Cain Velasquez, I've never seen anybody like it. Never. Yeah, I mean, I think that the first. So Jay, I'll tell you this: what age is the best to start training in MMA? It just depends. If you want to go pro, early. And when I say training for MMA, you want to be specific, right? You want to talk about what you want to do with your children. So I started playing football at 4 years old, I think. And it's crazy to think about it now with the research and the knowledge we have of, CTE and brain damage coming from head-on collisions from sports like that, right? It's crazy to think that you'd let your 4-year-old run out there and collide with other 4-year-olds, just full speed, whatever it is. And it might not do much damage at that age, but once you get to be 9, 10, and 11 years old, those kids are pretty fast and like little missiles running at each other. What I will do with my kids, if I'm blessed to have kids, unless I'm begged to put if I have a boy or whatever it is, a girl, if I'm begged to put my child, like my child's begging me to put them in football, I will do it at a certain point. But I will start my children just for self-defense purposes. I will start them in jiu-jitsu 100%. I will start them in wrestling 100% because they have that base. And if they decide to pursue that career, then we can take them and we can work on some, some taekwondo, some stuff that's, not very detrimental to them physically as far as their brain health or their physical health, especially early on. But it teaches them the basics of what they would want to know as an MMA practitioner. There are still specialists out there, but the sport of MMA is evolving, and guys that know everything and know a lot of it, not just jacks of all trades, but kings of the trade, are the cream that rises to the top. And I think, like I said, if I'm blessed to have kids, they will 100%, if they're interested in it, they will 100% be in jiu-jitsu and wrestling to start. Hence Kelsey. Oh, the Tristan versus Tristan match. Okay. I would pay to see it. I'll host it on the W.A.D.E concept. We'll get some pay-per-view money out of it. I'll split time, commentary and ring announcer. I'll just run back and forth for you guys. But yeah, that's what I think, Jay. I think you start them early, and it just depends, you know. But also let them be kids. You know what I mean? For you to be an MMA pro, the story's different for everybody. You see a guy like Yoel Romero, who was a wrestler for years, then came into the sport very late in his life. I think he was 32 or 33 when he started MMA. Or maybe I'm wrong, but it was something later, 28, 29, something like that. And you're looking at a guy that's, you know, probably going to compete for a world championship. Already has competed for a world championship. And then you see guys like Sage Northcutt or, you know, someone like that who's been doing some sort of mixed martial arts since they were 3 or 4 or 5 years old. So there's never a set time. But I just think, you know, letting kids be kids and just, you know, teaching them and molding them to be able to defend themselves and to be able to respect and have the discipline it takes to be a martial arts practitioner, teaching them humility, teaching them to respect, you know, their senseis, their masters, their coaches, and also to make friends in those environments. In any sport environment, you make friends that you have for life. I know guys that I met when I was, you know, 5, 6, 7, that are friends to this day of mine. So it's more about just making sure that those kids grow up and are healthy and happy, and just, you know, planting seeds if that's what they want to do. And then from there, you know, you take it as you go. You teach them the technical parts. You teach them all the skills they need to know. You get more pay-per-view than Conor. Okay. We'll set it up. W.A.D.E Concept Fight League. WCFL. All right, Jay. You headed out, brother? If you're out, Jay, appreciate you being in here, man. Thank you so much, man. We'll get you in here on the weekly or my next reaction, but I appreciate it. It was good talking to you, brother. Alves looks like he's fully recovered. But Milner's stabbing in that right hand. Ooh. Milner has a very open front-facing stance, man. Nice knee. Yikes. Ball game. Millinger with the step-in knee to the dome piece. That would be a crazy story, right, Tristan? This is what it would be. I would hit you guys with that 30 for 30 ESPN voice. So it'd be like, hold on. Y'all ready? What if I told you? Someone played the dramatic music in the background. What if I told you 2 guys shared the same name but took totally different paths? W.A.D.E Concept 30 for 30. When Tristan meets Tristan. I'm just saying. I could do some voiceover work if you guys need. I'm just saying. What if I told you 2 Tristans equaled 1 title holder? God dang, that knee. I'm already getting the arena. Let's go. We got to do it. We got to do it here in the States though. 100%. We doing Vegas though? We doing Vegas odds? We going to have it on the East Coast, West Coast? I say we do it in some out there place like Anchorage, Alaska. Somewhere like that. Just completely out of nowhere. Nah, we got to do it. We got to do it big if we're going to do it. Somewhere in Vegas. MGM. Something like that. Y'all are wild, man. Y'all are dumb. 410.90? Get out of here. Tristan, you just said you were talking about light heavyweight champ. What is 410.90? What I'm interested in, man, is Oh, I thought it said light heavyweight. I'm tripping. Lightweight champ. Lightweight is 155. Can you make 155? Ooh, let's do it in Denver. Let's do it Mile High. We'll sell out Mile High Stadium. Oh, you're 14. Well, we can't be having professional fights at 14, Tristan. Come on, son. Come on, son. I can't regulate that. What about we revisit it in 4 years? How's that sound? I thought, see, Tristan, you got to let me know these things. Hold on. Tristan W. My man's is 14. We got to call the fight off for a little bit. We can do a 4-year build. Every year we'll do like a New Year's build to the fight. And we'll track back and we'll see how you guys have been training and the development. Fighters in Thailand disagree. Fighters in Russia sincerely disagree, sir. Sir, we've been fighting bears since 2 years old, sir. And they've all been sanctioned fights. The lawsuits would be so real. That's all right. Kelsey's a criminal justice major. We'll get her in for some paperwork. Look, we'll put it together. We'll just do a year build every year. We'll do like the UFC countdowns do. We'll do a year build. We'll recap what you did that year. We'll have a film crew following you. It might not be a high budget, you know what I'm saying? We might be using the iPhone cam. We'll get it done, though. I mean, if it's 4 years from now, Tristan, it's got to be lightweight, right? You can get 60 pounds in 4 years. Come on, son. Yeah, lightweight for sure. Nitro, you got to give my water bottle a rest, man. Look, it's a hydro flask, but since the green screen is, I don't know. I had a blue shirt on. This is why my stream started late. I was going to start at 8 p.m. I had a blue shirt on, and it was blending in with the green screen. I had to go change it. I don't know why orange is blending in. I have no clue why, what that is. Is that something? Is that just me? I don't know. I've never seen that before, but that's what's happening. That's what I'm saying, Tristan. Once a year, I'll track the progress. I'll see where everybody's at. If we have to move up the fight to 170, we will. If we got to move it down to 145, we will. I'll give you guys the YouTuber. Have you guys seen that YouTuber boxing deal happening? It's crazy, right, Nitro? I have no idea what's happening. Ooh, Valentina Shevchenko in the crowd. That woman is probably the most dangerous woman in the 125 and under division. To be honest, that Nunes fight was closer than a lot of people give her credit for. That fight was close. Some people said she won that fight. I guess just because it's light. Yeah, Tristan, you seen that KSI Joe Weller boxing YouTuber stuff? We'll do it like that. You know what I'm saying? We might not get the 1 million views, but, one day we'll get there. That's crazy. YouTubers boxing. That is nutty. It's all about views, though, man. It's all about guys trying to keep their name at the top of that refresh list. And more power to them, man. They're doing their thing. They're making their money. I ain't never against that. It's just crazy. That's what it's come to. Guys are legit fighting each other over views. Yeah, that was some crazy drama. Apparently, there's like another one now where some people, I don't even know who they are, but some people are challenging him, I guess. Don't get it twisted. There are some legit guys on YouTube, man. There are some guys that can handle their business on YouTube. I forget the cat's name, but the dude that runs Fight Tips can handle that business. KSI or whatever his name is wants no problems with that fool. You guys watch... I don't know what the cat's name is that run Fight Tips, but watch that dude. Like about the same weight too. My man's been doing Muay Thai for about 10 years, kickboxing. Been doing some I know he's been doing boxing for forever too. I think he had Ryan Garcia on his channel, and Ryan Garcia, if you guys don't know, is one of these up and coming boxers. Man, that kid's got some of the quickest hands I've ever seen for his age. Logan Paul and Jake Paul. Is that the dude? The Paul kid is one of those kids. That's the dude that got Shane. Oh, Shane is Fight Tips. Okay, yeah. Shane is that guy. Okay, Shane's 145. Nah, well maybe not. I don't know what the other guy is. He looked like he was a little bit bigger. Maybe to a catch weight. Maybe something at 160 or maybe 150. I don't know. Whatever it is. I don't know what the other guy's weight class was. But the Paul dude, was that the dude that was got in the news for showing the oh, he's 185. Okay, never mind. I didn't know. I saw the fight. I just know my man Shane is with the stuff, man. He is with it. Great knowledge of fighting, in-depth knowledge. I'm not here to plug other people's channels, but if you guys want some in-depth knowledge and technique on just straight up boxing technique, if you guys are looking to improve your striking, that guy knows. He is with it, 100%. Footwork. A lot of the reasons guys are not landing the shots they want to land or telegraphing shots, guy knows what he's talking about. Oh yeah, if you guys are having trouble with some kind of movement, like I have trouble if I'm shadow boxing or anything like that, I have trouble getting really wide in my stance, and it's just because I try to maintain a wider stance to begin with. But my footwork's improved immensely because of that guy. He helps get you into MMA. Yeah, man, Tristan, keep it going, brother. I'm watching for you, man. I hope that you keep it going, keep pushing, man. If it's what you want to do, man, don't let anybody tell you that you can't. Don't let anybody push you away from that. At the same time, be a kid too, man. You're 14, getting into high school. Those years are important, brother. Be yourself. Do what you got to do, but obviously hit those books hard too. Those are very important. But chase it, man. Chase it. James Vick's about to fight, y'all. You guys know who James Vick is? James Vick's not getting the respect, in my opinion, that he deserves, man. He's been trying to fight guys. He called out Kevin Lee, wanted Kevin Lee. Couldn't get that fight. Very rangy, long fighter for 155. Finishing guys, too. I think he's 8-1. Oh yeah, that Shane guy on Fight Tips goes into great depth on his technique, man. I really like the way he throws his shovel hook too. I've been trying to do it. I'm a little bit longer, guys. If I were to get in a sanctioned fight, I would probably fight 170. I'm around 200 pounds, about 6'3", 6'3", 6'2", around that. And so I really have a problem not getting too long. Sometimes, you know what I mean? Especially with, a lot of stuff to the body and trying to have to keep my footwork in place. But I love his shovel hook. Yeah, man. Tristan, this is a fight right here. People sleep on James Vick. This fool is I think what did he finish? Who did he finish? Did he finish Paul? Or was it Duffy that he finished? Duffy, I think is what. Yeah, they just showed him finishing Pat Duffy. Pat Duffy. For some reason, I thought Paul Felder fights 145. What am I talking about? Or no. 155. You learned hook kicks because of him. Hook kicks are tough to pull off. There you go, Nitro. It's all empty, man. No more invisible air. But yeah, that YouTube stuff's a trip, man. That is wild. I tend to stick to Twitch, man. If I'm going to watch something, I like watching some YouTubers, and YouTube's cool for watching some of that stuff, but I tend to, if I'm going to watch something like for an elongated period of time, I'm a big fan of Twitch for that. Oh, Tristan says he can come down to 145. Okay, all right. 4 years. 4 years to get from 90 to 145. Tristan W says he can come down to 145. He's setting the gauntlet down there. I don't even know if I could get to 170. I had done some work with LA Models when I was in Orange County, and I was lifting pretty hard. I was getting really big at the time, and they wanted me to cut down and be around 180, and I did. I got down to 180, but man, I was miserable. So those last 10 pounds, I couldn't even imagine getting those last 10 off because I could not. I was always irritable. I was always hungry. I felt like I was always tired. So that was a rough time. Getting down to 170, that would be rough. I think I could do it if you know, I dieted the right way, which I was doing so at that point. But if I, switched the diet, actual training, 100% try hard training, and not just, the casual training and having other outside jobs, stuff like that, I could get there, I think. Look at that. Offering up the 155. I like it. 7 people in the stream watching on my return. Appreciate you guys. It's not quite the Dr. Disrespect kind of return if you guys are big Twitch fans, but I'll take 7, baby. I appreciate you guys. These are day one. Y'all are my day one people, man. Appreciate you all. Yeah, and if I got with somebody like, the Golden Snitch himself and got some tips, I'm sure I could get down to 170 a lot easier. I'm sure I could. But yeah, this James Vick fight's gonna be something special to watch here. That's gonna be cool. We're also gonna see what happens in this heavyweight division. Marcin Tybura, can he not only survive with Derek Lewis? I think he's got a little bit better cardio. I think his pace is a little bit more. I think he can stay around a little longer than Derek Lewis can. Derek Lewis has been a guy that we've seen tire out in a round and a half sometimes. Let's see if Marcin Tybura can stand with Derek Lewis, because, God, when he throws, man, watch out. And, man, I'm so excited for this Yancy Medeiros, Donald Cerrone fight. This is going to be a barn burner. Donald looks like he's focused, man. He looks like he took this fight very seriously coming into it. I think he wants that redemption. I think he talks about being the best at 170, which is always good to hear. If you're a Cowboy fan, you want to see him win this fight. If he loses this fight, you look and you go, what else do we need from Cowboy at this point? He's 0-4, getting up there, especially in MMA years. What's left for the guy to do? You start looking at one step, 1 foot out the cage maybe, and when it becomes 1 foot out and 1 foot in, it almost spells the end for guys. 6'3", weighing in at 155.5. My Lord. 6-inch reach advantage. James Vick, if he can get down to that weight consistently, that guy could be a problem, man. That guy can be a problem. Yeah, weight cutting's terrible, man. I can't stand weight cutting. I can't stand it. I wish guys would fight at their normal weight. I would love to fight 205 if I were ever going to fight, but Jesus Christ, I'm not getting in there with a guy like, even guys at 185 like Luke and Yoel or 215ers. You don't want to get in with the guy like John Jones. It's a 205 champ who's 240 walking around. It's nuts, man. Yeah, the Golden Snitch, a.k.a. Jeff Nowitzki. You guys need to know who that is. Gus versus Wade super fight. Gus would tune me up on the feet, brother. He would tune me up something serious. Super efficient striker is Gus. He reminds me a lot of Holly Holm. Alexander does. Maybe not so much kick heavy, but in his methodical approach. And then when he does find, his distance and his range, the way he puts that pressure on you. Holly's a little bit less, she's very methodical and catches you with big shots and then pounces. Gustafsson finds what he's looking for and finds the range where he's comfortable, gets in rhythm and starts blasting shots on you. See what James Vick's got here. I'm going to turn it up a little bit here. Mario, if you're still here, I think we got 2 more fights, brother. This one more, and then our main, I think. I could be wrong. But we'll keep you posted, man. I was completely wrong about it being 45 minutes away. Good call, Tristan. Both guys trade body kicks here. Nice side kick from Vic. Oh, showed that Sage Northcutt step. Oh. That front leg side kick to the head is so hard to defend, especially when you go straight to the oblique with it, then feint, come right back to the head. Beautiful. 6'3" with a 76-inch reach. This guy could give so many problems to so many guys. Trinaldo with the overhook. Has Vic on the cage. God, I can't get over that front leg side kick to the head. How quick those guys, both James Vic and Sage, have snapped that thing off. I still can't believe they gave Sage that fight. I mean, it's not like an outrage, but man, I was completely thinking that was a 29-28 the other way. If I'm Vic and I'm 6'3", 76-inch reach, and I don't know James Vic's striking prowess. I know he gets guys out of there most of the time. But I would do what he did to Pat Duffy, man. Stay on the outside. Throw that jab. I mean, good God, he's got a 6-inch reach. Throw that jab. Use those kicks, those push kicks. With his takedown defense being, seemingly what it looked like was pretty decent there. I wouldn't be afraid to throw. Ooh, nice left hand from Trinaldo. Oh, big right hand from Vic. What recovery by Trinaldo, though. Got dropped, popped up, and went for the double. Ooh, Trinaldo's got his back. Gets him back down to the ground. What a quick recovery from Trinaldo. Vic trying to get off the fence. Watch head and arm triangle. Back to full guard. Nice work from Vic off his back there. Trinaldo trying to transition into half guard. Up against the cage now. Vic's going to try to cage walk. Trinaldo tries a guillotine. Oh, it's deep, too. Vic might be in trouble. He says he's good. That looks deep, man. Hands are clasped under that neck, too. The hips aren't there, though. Nice. Way to stay calm under pressure. The one thing Trinaldo did not have there with that guillotine, the hips were not in place. He didn't have any kind of wrap on the body, no body lock, anything. So Vic was able to explode with his hips, not to get Trinaldo off of him, just to shuck a little bit and rock out of that position and transition to his own side control, loosening up the grip, and ultimately Trinaldo had to let go of the guillotine. Lost position. Jesus, Floyd versus Conor. Yeah, great display right there. Not only from Trinaldo with the step-in left hand, but also when he got dropped with the right hand to be able to regain position. Now Vic teeing off a little bit. Nice 1-2. But then great work off his back right there from James Vic, man. A lot of guys in MMA use jiu-jitsu as a defense mechanism off of their back to get back to their feet. Not a lot of guys looking for submissions off their back, but James Vic right there, to the best of his ability, used that to get back to his feet very quickly. Didn't sit in the position like a lot of guys will, just to wait for the referee to come and grab him up. Woo! Just misses the head kick. Big overhand left from Trinaldo. He is looking for that freaking bomb with the left hand. Thing I don't like from James Vic is he's circling toward it, and that's what's getting him caught. He's switching on stances a lot, which I do like. But out of southpaw, he's trying to run right into. He's trying to slide, and he's running right into a big left hand. Yeah, it's tough, man. I would say. I'll say James Vic got it because of the knockdown. And when they did get back to the feet, he defended well. He was in a little danger there with that guillotine. But when they got back to the feet, James Vick implemented the 1-2 very nicely, stuck behind that jab, landed some clean shots, and ended the round pretty strong. I'll say James Vick, but close round. Very close round. Good showing by both guys. You can see that Trinaldo was looking for that huge left overhand. And then obviously wants to take that fight to the ground. James Vick relaxed on his back. Did get caught when he stood back up and cage walk, but again stayed relaxed, got back to full guard, exploded with the hips, transitioned into his own side control and made Trinaldo let go of the guillotine. That's what you like to see, man. It's very hard to stay composed, especially not only off of your back when you know you're in some danger. But when you're caught in the guillotine, the hands are clasped, and all the guy has to do is get that regain full guard and get those legs wrapped around your body, and it could be over. And James Vick stayed very composed there. Woo! Tried the jumping head kick, complete miss. Jumping knee misses from Vick. Tristan says a big boy for 85-90. When I was in high school and wrestling was during football season, we got a body lock here. Takedown from Trinaldo. Trinaldo has Vick's back here. Seatbelt on, but they're standing, so not as efficient as it would be on the ground. You just have to fight the hands there. Flip. Overhooks from Trinaldo there. God, I want to say Trinidad so bad. Trinaldo. Now Vick with the takedown. Nice trip and takedown. Now Vick has the back. Trying to ragdoll. Trinaldo trying to use the cage. Get back up. He does so. And they separate. Nice grappling there from James Vick. Yeah, Tristan, what I was going to say was in high school, I remember a lot of the guys that were in that 85-90 division would have to cut at least 15, 20 pounds. They weren't, nice head kick. They weren't natural 90-pound guys. Vick looking for that, hook kick. Vick using that that's a good point right there from Jimmy Smith. He's using a lot of different styles. You see some Muay Thai, you see a lot of good grappling from him, and then you see that Taekwondo, karate stance, that front leg kind of jumping side kick. A lot of different, him switching stances as well. Getting a lot of different looks from James Vick, but that does tire you out a little bit, you know? Switching stances, moving like that, bouncing. Exerts a lot of energy, and I think both guys at this point, the fight's going to slow down just a little bit. You're going to see both of them settle in, and both are probably going to start sitting down on their punches and their kicks a lot more now because the explosion is starting to go about midway through the second here. Especially Trinaldo. He's been sitting down on that left hand for the whole fight pretty much. It looks like his one plan of attack standing would be this overhand looping left and then obviously the double leg that he's tried to get on James Vick. James Vick trying to employ the look low, kick high technique, the oldest trick in the book, as they say. Nice side kick. That front leg side kick to the body, man. Now he switches back southpaw, goes back orthodox. Trinaldo trying to walk forward. Vick keeping him on the outside of the range with that side kick to the body, man. That's all it's there for. It's not a terribly devastating kick. It can be used as that, but that's not what he's using it as right now. It's just a probe. He's using that to stay in his range, dictate the space of that fight. You'll see Conor do the same thing. You saw Sage do it in the first part of the fight when Gucci was getting too close and getting in the pocket and throwing big shots at Sage. What did he start doing in the third round? He started using that side kick to the body. Ooh, nice right hand from Trinaldo. But Sage started to use that side kick to the body to really create space and fight at his distance, not Goody. That was his name, Goody's distance. Step in knee misses from Vic. Hard to tell this round so far. Both guys landed a takedown. I like Trinidad. Oh, again, that front leg side kick to the face. Trinaldo's controlled the pace of this round, or I shouldn't say controlled the octagon in this round. But James Vick looking to counterpunch, looking to counterstrike. Trinaldo trying to feint level change. Might be looking for a takedown knee in the round here. But probably a little wary as many knees as James Vick is throwing. He might run into one with the takedown attempt. Left hand to the body to end up the round here. Vick again. Oh, hook kick. Tough, man. Tough to It's tough. It's tough to give guys a round when there's not, that both guys are doing what they can to solve that puzzle, but almost mirror images that round. Both guys landed significant strikes. Both guys landed a takedown. Tough. Tristan says, I try to stay at my natural weight. Gives me an advantage not having to cut. It does suck. First, and I did 145, nearly passed out. Yeah, man. Guys, I get weight cutting is a thing, but I'm with Tristan on this, on Tristan W. Try to stay at your natural weight. Not only does it save you from the dangers of weight cutting, but it also, when you weight cut like that, not only is it dangerous for your health that day, but you experience in my experience in watching guys, you see so many diminishing returns from doing this. You see guys like Donald Cerrone fight completely different at 170. Kelvin Gastelum fight completely different at 185. Robert Whittaker even. Guys fight differently when there's not coming off the door of death. The diminishing returns from weight cutting are so severe. And for some guys it's not. But I just think that overall, when you don't drain your body before a fight, before a contest, you're going to do better. Regardless if it's a day before, a week before, whatever it is, you're going to do better. So I think we should just get rid of weight cutting. Guys fight at their natural weight, but who am I to tell you what to do? A guy with a computer talking on YouTube. Who am I? Yeah, Tristan, it's something that if I were to impart any kind of wisdom on you as a young man, I would say do my best to not do it, man. Learn to fight, in your natural weight class early. That way you can deal with these guys coming down, you know what I mean? And the best you can anyway. And, I know it's a necessity for wrestling, and you said you're a big 90-er, so, do what you got to do, but take care of yourself, man. Do it the right way. If you don't know the right way, the internet's a beautiful thing, man. And just take care of yourself. You're a young guy. I don't want you to get into bad habits and kill your body at that young age, brother. You said right now Tony Ferguson's 201. Is that true? It's an advantage to drop down. That's why guys do it, Tristan, 100%. I mean, it's an advantage when you can make that weight and then, fuel up. But the long-term effects you're having on your body are not reversible. Because when you're draining that kind of weight and you're passing out or you're close to it, those brain cells that you're losing from doing that don't return. Not only that, but other organs like your liver shutting down in the case of Khabib, or guys having seizures, things like that. Those things aren't just one thing and done. Those have permanent effects on your body. And even if they don't get to that point, just the fact that you are draining yourself probably more than the guy across from you, maybe in the case of the UFC, not so much, but I just think it's better for guys to fight at their natural weight. But there is something to be said for guys that can make the weight, like a Luke Rockhold or like a Conor McGregor at 145, that can stand in that cage at 170 and fight at 145, be the bigger, longer guy. There's something to say for that 100%. That's crazy. Tony's walking around at 201. I've never seen Tony look like he was at 201. But Tony always makes weight. I don't think he'll miss. If anybody's going to miss weight between those guys, it's going to be Khabib. Tony's never missed weight. Plus, what is that? When's that fight? Next month? He's got time. That 201's crazy for him to be right now, though. Yeah, you do have to do it in a smart way. You can't go. And when you say do it smart, it's more about doing it in a way that your body is going to respond to the least negatively, right? So that's not saying, no one's going to come into fight week eating hamburgers and throwing down McDonald's down their throat and drinking jugs of milk. No one's going to do that. But I think when Tristan says do it smart, I think he means, come into fight week or fight month or whenever it is at a reasonable weight. Do not kill yourself being 20 and 15 and 10 pounds overweight 2 and 3 days before the fight. That's ridiculous. Find ways to gradually over and it's good because if you do a 6-week or 8-week camp, it's going to be hell, but it's probably the best way to do it, to start cutting weight when camp starts. You know what I mean? Depending on when your camp is, and maybe even before, because not only are you training in that point, and yes, you're going to be tired, and yes, you're going to expend a lot of energy. And MMA training is very, very hard. Ooh, wheel kick just misses from Vic. But it's the best way to do it is to gradually, not an all in one time, but gradually cut down on the meal size portions, cut down on the the extra splurging on food or whatever it is, and then when you can, at the last week or whatever it is before the fight, cut down on the water and relieve the body of the excess water weight, then you can get that weight back generally very quickly. Yeah, and that's what's so bad, man. Tristan USA, I'm with you. I don't think that the UFC should be implementing weight cutting like this, but it is what it is. Guys are going to do it either way. And even if they said, all right, no more weight cutting, guys would find ways around it, man. It's the nature of the sport. But IVs are a lifesaver not only when weight cutting, just the dehydration you experience from it, and that the UFC and USADA doesn't let them do it. What they're trying to do with that is encourage guys to not cut an inordinate amount of weight to where they need an IV. I get that. But it's a double-edged sword, man, because what you're doing to guys is basically saying, if you take this one thing that's vital to your recovery, you're not going to be able to fight. And the reasoning behind it, I understand, is honorable and it's sound. But you're hurting your fighters that aren't doing those things, and their body is just not reacting, right? Not every fighter is weight cutting improperly, and IVs could have helped Uriah Hall. Could help. I mean, you can go through the list. There's tons of guys, and I'm sure things we never hear about could have helped somebody like a Khabib possibly. But it's just USADA and the UFC want guys to be doing it the right way, and through that, they're not going to give guys IV because, in their opinion, you shouldn't need one. You shouldn't need to get down to that weight at such a horrible rate that you need that IV. I understand it. I don't like it. It is what it is. Oh, yeah. Tristan USA, for sure, my man. Don't worry about, at 14, do not worry about making weight that quickly. Obviously, you want to be disciplined in your sport, and I'm not saying do not be disciplined in your sport. But at such a young age, do not worry about getting anywhere close to that point, to where you're starting to experience any sort of serious health issue. You are way too young, my man, to be getting to that point to where you feel like you have to make weight, or something severe is going to happen to your body. 100%. Look out for yourself, man. They just showed the graphic for 222. Brian Ortega, Frankie Edgar, who we got. James Vick with the W. It's a close fight. Let's see what James Vick's got to say. That's what I'm more interested in. I would say I would give James the first and third. But I think they gave him unanimous. Yeah. Says he dislocated his pinky. He cursed on live TV, so they had to bleep it. James Vick's 13-1. Here we go. Here's the call out. Okay. Might not be realistic, but James Vick calls out Khabib, Tony, and Conor because he's tired of calling out guys like Michael Chiesa, guy dabbing in the crowd, guys like Kevin Lee who have turned down fights against him. I understand his thinking behind it. If guys aren't going to accept fights, then I'm just going to skip them. I understand that. It's not going to happen. The UFC's not, in the business of jumping a guy like Kevin Lee right now. They really want that guy to be a superstar for him. So I don't see that. Yeah, Tristan USA, listen to Tristan Dub, man. Take your time. You're a young guy. You'll get there, brother. Keep working. Keep focusing on the things that matter, like your technique, your conditioning, the weight cutting, all that stuff, that'll come later. But James Vick calls out Ferguson, calls out Khabib. They're not going to give him that, but I like it. I like that the man gave a name. Some guys, they get that spotlight and they say, I'll take anybody, I'll fight anybody. But that's great for the moment. But if you want to build your brand, if you want the UFC to promote you over the next guy, yes, they're going to promote their guys, they're going to put you on cards, but if you want that extra little bit, that mainstream promotion, that Dana White on the Fox, on the Colin Cowherd show saying, hey, we got this one guy that's coming up that you got to watch. It's this guy. If you want that, you got to give a name, man. You got to fight, you got to back it up, and then when you back it up, you got to give a name. Who's next? Not anyone, not everyone, not all that. Somebody. It just doesn't work, It doesn't work when you say, I'll fight anybody, because everybody will fight anybody, right? In theory, in the UFC. Once you give a name, once you can start to build a story, to build some kind of conflict with another guy, and it's based on the fact that you're going to have to punch him in the face at some point, or you're going to have to deal with him punching you, people latch on to that, man. They're doing the promo for Josh Emmett and Jeremy Stevens here. And again, Josh Emmett, a guy that's been around for a little bit, gets his shot because what happens? He steps in, short notice, gets his finish, and now we've got, maybe a title eliminator here at 145 for Max when he comes back. The thing is, Josh Emmett's got to make weight, man. You have to make weight. Maybe Barboza? I could see that. For James Vick, I could see Barboza. God, what an interesting fight, man. Because that reach of James Vick, I wouldn't say is neutralized, but it's diminished. Because Barboza can hit from any point, you know what I mean? He can fight close. He's got deadly kicks. Take out the legs of that tall tree. You know what I mean? Now he's not going to go to the ground with a guy like that. He's going to stand and strike with him. But again, the reach is far less significant when you have a guy that can throw wheel kicks like he's been doing it out the womb. You know what I mean? When you have a guy that can establish range with his kicks. Now James Vick throws a nice side kick as well. But I would love that fight. Josh Emmett's just got to make weight, man. The way he threw that left, was it a left hook he hit Ricardo Lamas with and put him to sleep? I mean, he's a monster at 145. He looks like a 170-er. But you gotta make weight. Yeah, left hook that put him out cold. And him being a Team Alpha Male guy, I would say you'd think he would make weight. Oh, guys, by the way, I can't believe I hadn't said this. I'm going to this fight. I'm in Orlando for a couple more months, and I'm gonna be at the fight. So look for some maybe some footage, depending on how quick, or not how quick, how strict the UFC is with their cutting down on videos and things like that. Not videos of the fight, but just of that day. I might do a little vlog, something like that. But I'm going to be going to that fight February 24th at the Amway Center in Orlando. I will be there for Jeremy Stephens versus Josh Emmett. So you guys look for that one. That's going to be a good fight, man. It's going to be a good card. Mike Perry's on that card. I'm a big fan of Mike Perry. Yeah, it's going to be a good one, man. So we got 2 more fights. If what was it, Mario? Mario is in the chat. If you're still here, brother, we got 2 more fights. We got the co-main event with Derek Lewis and Marcin Tybura, and then we have our main event of the evening. It's going to be nice, man. Yeah, there's the thing, Tristan. He's missed weight before, too. That wasn't just because it was short notice. Josh Emmett's missed weight, I think, 2 or 3 times. So, he's got, and this is for a title, in my opinion, a title eliminator. Because whoever wins the Ortega-Frank Yeager fight is going to fight for the title, right? So the next one up is going to be that Josh Emmett versus Jeremy Stephens fight, in my opinion. Lamas is out now. So if he can't make championship weight, if he can't make regular weight, he's not making championship weight. You know what I mean? Like that 1 pound is a big deal, Ask Khabib. That 1 pound is a huge deal. So we'll see. I'm not going to say the man can't make weight. I'm not going to say he can. I don't know, but from what I've seen, he has a little trouble. Let's just hope he does better this time, because I cannot wait to see his fight, and I'm going to it. You know what I'm saying? I paid my hard-earned money to get in there, so I'm gonna go to this fight. So I want him to be there. I want to see it. 7 people holding strong in the chat. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate you guys. We're going on 3 hours. 3 hours stream like it's nothing. Y'all don't get this anywhere else, man. 3-hour streams. Great experiences watching fights together. Amazing commentary with in-depth, detailed technique description. All right, the last part might be a stretch, but I do my best, okay? Because of how big the fight is. I hope so, man. I really hope so, because that's a huge fight for him. He's been around for a little bit, and he needs that. He hits like a Mack truck, man. If he could just... It's the same thing with Yoel, man. It's the same thing with these guys. That sometimes the hardest fight is beating the scale. And we've already been over my reasons for not liking weight cutting, things like that. But for these guys, you know what I mean? If you're gonna fight in that division, be a professional. Hey, Kel says I'm doing great. Thank you, sweets. How old is Marcin Tybura? He's a young guy, isn't he? Marcin said he wants to exchange with him. Oof. Yeah, I don't know, man. Derek Lewis has got some heavy, heavy hands. Had a guy today, I was at the Nike outlet store. I had a guy today ask me what I thought about, I was wearing a UFC shirt that Kelsey bought me. Guy asked me what I thought about Tyron Woodley. And the first thing that came to my mind was best athlete at 170. Phenomenal power. Great champion. And it surprised him a little bit, because it seemed like he was not a big Tyron Woodley fan. I said, why does that surprise you? He said, man, his fights are so boring. I said, well, what do you watch the UFC for, right? Was the guy in his early 30s? Oh, it was Tybura's in his early 30s. I thought he was younger than that. Maybe not. But I said, well, what do you watch the UFC for? Do you watch the UFC to see stylistic matchups, to see different matchups, or are you watching to see, guys get knocked out doing that whole thing? He's like, no, I watch a lot, and just looking at Tyron, I feel like he should be able to just take people and throw them around and punch them and knock them out and knock them dead on the spot. Like, I hate him when he fought Wonder Boy and he was so cautious the whole time. I was like, well, do you watch Wonder Boy fight? He said, well, no. He's like, well, he was a skinny guy. He didn't pose any danger to Tyron. And I was like, well, did you watch the Damian Maia fight? He's like, yeah, man, that one was boring too. They just stood there. He threw one punch. I was like, well, Damian Maia is probably the best jiu-jitsu practitioner in MMA at this point. If not, the best, one of the best. That literally takes wrestlers to the ground and then chokes them out. Like wrestles wrestlers, takes them to the ground, takes them down, and chokes them out. And the guy was so baffled that I was such a big fan of Tyron Woodley. He goes, he complains a lot, he does this. And finally I said, well, what is it that you don't like about Tyron as the person? Because it doesn't seem like it's more of a fighter thing. What do you not like as a person? And this is what I think the general public thinks about Tyron Woodley. He said, well, he's very cocky, and he's very, I think he said, whiny. He complains a lot, and he's cocky. I said, what does he complain about? Well, not being a superstar, not doing this. I said, okay, maybe, I can see what you're saying, but at the same time, has this guy not ever answered the bell? Just because he's not getting fight of the night honor, because he's fighting killers and specialists. You don't see a lot of guys fighting specialists anymore. Tyron Woodley's doing that. And this guy is handling every problem in front of him. If he's not an interesting fighter to you, that's one thing. But to call the guy complaining and not interesting and should be this freak athlete to just go in and throw people around, this guy is super intelligent, man. I think he could be, depending on what happens with this Dana White thing, he could be one of the best to ever do it. I didn't want to say that, Tristan, but yeah, pretty much. I hate calling people casuals because the sport is in this position to where casuals or new fans is what it needs, But you have to want to be knowledgeable. You have to want to watch the sport for what it is. Casuals, and that term comes from guys that want to see guys get knocked dead every time they fight, right? And there's nothing wrong with that as far as wanting to see an interesting fight. But when you call guys out for not being that just because of the way they look or how they look muscular or how they're big they are, when you call guys out and say they're not interesting because of it, you're just not a fan of the sport, man. Because you don't respect it. In that moment, there are very dire consequences to doing what you're saying he should do. The minimal gain that he could have from hitting that right hand, granted, it could hit the jackpot, but what if he misses? And Stephen Wonderboy comes over with a question mark kick and puts him to sleep. Now, not only are you not talking about him, his livelihood's gone. That fighter they were showing some Zero Thaw thing on Fox. It looked pretty cool. Not only is his that payday for him gone, that lineage he wanted as the best welterweight of all time is gone, and you've moved on, right? So I hate that so much, but it is what it is. People, it gave me an insight into what I guess casuals or people that aren't regular viewers of the UFC, really think about some guys. I wish he was working, but I wish I could have talked to him a little bit more and picked his brain, because I'm sure he was a Conor McGregor fan, and I am too. But I'm sure he was a Conor McGregor fan. I'm sure he didn't know who Stipe was. I'm sure he didn't know who Mighty Mouse was. Those type of things that it's tough to believe when guys can't, when they try to talk about the sport and say one thing is somebody is this or somebody is that, and they don't really pay attention. Yeah, Nitro, I'm with you. That's a little much. I don't like to get into that whole thing as far as, the whole race card thing that Tyron Woodley does or what he talks about. That might be a little much, and I don't think it has much, basis to it. As you can see, granted, Derek Lewis is from Houston, but this dude is one of the most beloved fighters in the UFC, and I don't like to get into all that, but, it is what it is. The thing with Tyron Woodley is he's a very entertaining fighter when the style is conducive to what he wants to do. Sometimes matchups make fights, man. Regardless of you have guys like a Chuck Liddell, and you have guys like a Diego Sanchez that will bite down on the mouthpiece and come forward and use that chin as a weapon. We'll get back to it. We're going to do commentary on this Lewis Marcin Tybura fight, but we'll finish that conversation in a second, guys. Both guys come out. Tabora moving a lot, light on his feet, feints a lot. Derek Lewis throws inside leg kick, low inside leg kick. Big right hand from Derek Lewis. Woo, my goodness. Sorry, earphones users. Mario, if you're in the chat, I apologize. That was a massive right hand. Now Derek Lewis on top. Half guard here. Derek Lewis going to try to transition here. Nice elbow. He's using him as a bench. Tabora scrambles, got a hold of an ankle. Ooh. Tabora looked like he was going to try to leg lock or heel hook. Jimmy Smith just called out he's going for a calf slicer. You rarely see a calf slicer in MMA. Almost impossible to land a calf slicer. Derek Lewis is out. He's trying to keep a hold of that leg. God dang, the UFC Reebok kid is coming off of Derek Lewis right now. Someone get that man some shorts that fit. Derek Lewis looking like he's going for back mount here. Oh, Derek Lewis fell down. Tabora in side control on top now. Dang, man, Derek Lewis had the back, tried to get up, and it looked like he was going to try to drag Tabora back down to the ground, stumbled and fell, and now Tabora is in mount on Derek Lewis. This is not good. Derek Lewis gives up the back here, trying to scramble. He's on the feet, trying to shuck Tabora off. Very nice. Both men back. Oh, right hand! Jesus, raining hands down on Tabora. Oh, man, ground and pound right now from Derek Lewis. Tabora trying to hold on, trying to protect. Woo, just like that, man. Derek Lewis's hands have got to be heavy as hell, man. Jesus Christ. Give me Derek, if he wins this fight, give me Derek Lewis versus Francis Ngannou. I need that fight. No takedowns, no ground game. I want Wild Wild West, Pride days, stand up and just trade them. I don't ask for that a lot. Just give me one. I just want one. If he wins this fight. This fight's far from over, though, guys. But, man, it could have been right there. Now, Marcin Tabora regained top position. Looks like he's fully recovered. Yeah, he said he wanted Francis, man. If he wins this fight, give it to us. Marcin Tabora just staying in that half guard. Hand on mouth. Just trying to frustrate Derek Lewis. Jimmy Smith made a good point of letting us know, Tabora is not a small heavyweight either, man. Derek Lewis is not the greatest off of his back. And, exploding and flipping around, standing up, giving your back to stand up only works a certain amount of time, especially when you're a heavyweight and you get later in these rounds, man. Tabora doing some damage here on the ground. Yeah, Nitro, I'm with you. That fight would be literally two guys just throwing until someone connected clean, and that fight's over. Now full mount for Tabora. Man, back and forth round, guys. Now Tabora with the hook, 2 hooks in on top. This might be a round saver right here. Ooh. Key lock is in. Oh, right at the end of the round. The key lock was close, man. props to Tabora for getting wobbled the first time with the right hand and getting dropped the second time and recovering both times and regaining dominant position on the ground. Here's my question, guys. Who do you give the round to? I mean, Derek Lewis, 2 knockdowns. Marcin Tybura doing damage in the full mount at the end of the round. Who do you give the... I don't know. I guess Derek Lewis would get that round, in my opinion. 10-9. Even with 2 knockdowns, still a 10-9 just because of the work that Marcin Tybura did to get back on top, establish dominant position, and rain down punches. Then secure, not secure, but work for a submission all the way up until the end of the round. But watch this right hand. Boom, son. Have a seat. Just think if that would have caught on the chin. Because that hit, that crossed the chin and hit more of his mouth. But that catches on the chin. Yikes. Good night. All right, here we go. Second round, boys. 446, 445 if I'm behind. Do not spoil it, chat. Tabora again. Moving. Darting in and out. Tabora moves very well for a heavyweight. I like that movement. Ooh, oblique kick. That's a John Jones oblique kick, too. Yoel Romero uses that same oblique kick as well. Head kick from Tabora. I really like the movement of Tabora. Good God, but that right hand from Derek Lewis. The timing on that right hand, too, man. Derek Lewis knows when that opening is there, and he fires that right hand off when he does. Jesus. Nice trip from Tabora. I mean, that was smooth. Straight into side control. Derek Lewis does not want to be here at all. That's the problem with guys like Derek Lewis, who are, especially at heavyweight. You see it the same way with Francis, man. Great punching power. Great timing. I would say even Derek Lewis may be more technical with his punches. He's going to look for that key lock again. He's going to isolate that arm and look for the key lock again. But, when this game is not boxing. This is not boxing. This is not kickboxing. This is MMA. And you have to be able to grapple, especially when you come in and wing shots like Derek Lewis does, man. Because what you're doing, in effect, nice scramble, but right into the back mount from Tabora. Double hooks. You got to shuck, man. You got to shuck. Tabora's on top. Derek Lewis on his feet, but still Tabora's holding on to the back mount. Derek Lewis needs to shake him off the top. Tabora's a little high. He can get him off if he shakes. He's got both hands on the mat. There you go. You got to shimmy him off of there. He goes back down to his knees. I guess, again, Tabora is not a light heavyweight. Now Tabora, he goes to the ground. Tabora transitions to top mount. And again, to back mount for Tabora. Lewis is trying to flip and get to his feet. But when he gets here, you can fight the hands with one hand and then fight the body lock with the other and shake him off. The backdoor escape is all you have here. Good point by Jimmy Smith. Derek Lewis is very tired. Holding the weight of Marcin Tybura this entire, almost the entire second round here after the exchange at the beginning of the round. Got to be able to fight the body lock. Nice spin from Derek Lewis, but right back to the back mount for Tabora. Tabora's transitions and the way he reestablishes position is really, really good. It's what let him survive against a guy like Verdum. Granted, a lot of that fight was on the feet, but on the ground, he held his own. You can see this guy is not a novice at all on the ground. Nice. Close range elbows right now from Tabora. Those things are doing damage. You don't need a lot of space either. Tabora continuing to work in top mount here. Derek Lewis in a bad position, man. Either regaining guard, and it looks like Derek Lewis has no interest in regaining guard here. But his explosion is kind of the only thing he's got here. The explosion, flip, try to escape either out of the back by standing and giving the back, or sliding out the side. But Tabora staying very tight in the top mount. It's not going to happen. I would give Tabora this second round based on the great ground and pound he's showing here. Great control, position, handled the onslaught of Derek Lewis at the beginning of the round. Great round for Tabora. Great round. 3 hours and 15 minutes in, and we got 4 people in the chat. Thank you guys so much for watching, man. I appreciate it. Energy levels are, like I said, we're rusty. We'll get there. I just went on a run before we started the podcast, so I thought that would help my energy levels, but it actually did not. Oh, shit. Is my stream messed up right now? Why is my stream offline, bro? Sorry, guys. I'm back. I'm not sure why my stream output's so low. I'm going to look at it right now, though. Sorry about that. What is happening? Come on, man. Stream complete. Why is it not streaming smoothly? Why is my stream screwing up right now? I don't know why the stream's going offline, guys. I'm trying to figure it out. I have no clue. It's dropping frames like crazy right now. Why? Why are we dropping frames?